Howdy. Welcome to OpenSpace Waypoint. I'm Wesley DeBose, a solutions engineer and product manager with OpenSpace, and today I have the privilege of being your host for Waypoint. Now, before we get started with the fun stuff, I'm going to need to go through some quick housekeeping items today before we get things started. On the right side of your screen, you're going to see the event chat box. Anytime during the event, you can use the chat to share your thoughts and questions with us. If there's a specific person you'd like to connect with, click the People button on the right side to search the chat directly for the person you'd like to connect with. Next, you can click the View Schedule button at the top left corner to see the full schedule for today, and you can click on the desired session to join our talks. During our breaks, you're going to have the chance to network one-on-one with other Waypoint attendees. During our breaks today, you can click the networking icon on the left side menu, and we will match you with another attendee for a brief one-on-one 3-minute networking session. If at any time today you have questions, you can click the People button on the right side to direct message the OpenSpace team, and one of our great and talented team members will reach out to you to help. Now, we have a jam-packed agenda today. We have some pretty game-changing stuff that we're really excited to share with y'all. Today, we're going to start off with the OpenSpace vision and some of OpenSpace's strategic thinking for the next year. That's going to be delivered by OpenSpace CEO and co-founder, Jeevan Kalanithi. After that, we're going to be hearing from one of our partners, our insurance partner, Shepherd Insurance, on how using OpenSpace on your projects can objectively lower the risk associated with building a job, and through that, you can unlock savings and put real, cold, hard cash back in your company's wallet. After that, we're going to shift things over to Neil Sheath, OpenSpace's VP of Product, to hear some exciting product announcements that we're really excited to share with y'all. After that, we're going to hear directly from OpenSpace customers on how they've effectively implemented OpenSpace at scale and tied OpenSpace into their enterprise workflows. We're going to hear from a variety of customers representing trades, owners, and GCs that are operating in all different parts of the world. Lastly, we're going to give you a peek under the hood and look at OpenSpace's Spatial AI engine and show you some of the magic that powers how our technology works, and that's going to be delivered by OpenSpace CTO and co-founder Mike Fleischman. Now, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to pass things over to Jeevan, who's going to be talking to y'all about the OpenSpace vision.
Hey everyone, welcome to Waypoint. We're really excited to have you, and it's been a year of a lot of growth here at OpenSpace, and I'm really psyched to finally be able to share with you some of the things that we've been quietly working away on this whole year. New technologies, new products and features, and new partnerships that we think are going to fundamentally simplify how the world gets built. That is, after all, why our company exists, to simplify how the world gets built, to make the lives of really everybody, the men and women in construction, easier. And the way we do that at OpenSpace is through the magic of AI and computer vision technology. I want to cover 4 themes with you as I kick Waypoint off. But before I do that, for those of you that aren't maybe familiar with what OpenSpace does, I'm going to try to give you a 30-second, in a nutshell description of what our core products actually do. And it's pretty simple. What we do is we make it incredibly easy to generate 100% complete visual records of your job site, inside and out, so you can see what's going on from anywhere at any time. And OpenSpace is super easy to use, so you can capture your job site every week or every day, kind of giving you a time machine so you can see, well, what's there today, but maybe what was there yesterday or a week ago or 5 years ago. And with this level of documentation, something really cool happens. All those questions, the waiting, the disputes that plague a lot of job sites, they just kind of go away because we replace opinions with facts. Because after all, a picture really is worth 1,000 words. So let me give you a quick tour. In OpenSpace, what happens is we have our users are able to simply walk the job, and as they do that, the video is just clicking away, and what the core technology does is it digests those images and places them on the floor plan. So as a result, you can see everything that's going on your job site. It looks like this, kind of like Google Street View. Look around, see what's there, and enjoy the power of just having facts. You can see that blue squiggle there and that green squiggle. That's just the path someone walked and all the images that were pinned to that floor plan. And as I mentioned, it's really, really easy to use, so you can answer questions in OpenSpace that, quite frankly, are almost impossible to answer without this technology. For example, let's say you really need to know where the rebar and PT cable is after you pour the concrete. It's pretty hard to do without OpenSpace, but with us, it's just a click away. Let's just rewind the clock. We'll split the screen, go to a date a few weeks earlier, and boom, there you go. Pretty magic, and very simple and very easy. Now, looking at the reality is really good, but there's more you can do with OpenSpace too. You can compare what's there with what should be there. If you're using a BIM model, upload it into our system. And you can look at the reality versus the model. We launched a product called BIM Plus last year that really supercharges this capability and makes the BIM model really valuable for everyone in the field. We're showing here a BIM element overlay feature where you can take something in the model, warp it into the reality, and see if everything is lining up. Now, that's some of the things OpenSpace core technology does, but at the end of the day, what do we do? What does this allow you to do? Well, it's really a collaboration platform where you can keep everybody on your project on the same page, wherever they are and whenever they are. So a lot of the questions go away and things can just move faster. Now, to be clear, that's just a little taste of what we do. There's a lot more capabilities that OpenSpace provides, task management systems that we call field notes, progress tracking, which we'll talk about more later, incorporation of laser scans. But hopefully that's a quick sense of what OpenSpace is all about. Back to these 4 core themes I want to cover. They are, number 1, scale. Number 2, AI and innovation. The third is productivity. And the last, ROI, or return on investment. Let's just take them one at a time. Scale. Okay. You know, scale is one of these sort of like tech industry words, scaling, hyperscaling. You know, what does it really mean? It just means operating at a certain level where you can handle anything your customer throws at you. Put it in a more simple way, just means reliability. It means OpenSpace is reliable. That if you're using us on one project or thousands, we can handle it because we're operating at scale. I want to prove this to you with a few visualizations and just some facts and numbers. This is an image of all the OpenSpace deployments across all the projects across the world. As you can see, it's a lot, and it adds up to a lot of construction value, almost $700 billion in projects. That's a lot. This means that we're serving a lot of users, more than 250,000. It's a lot of data, 2.1 billion images, 360 images. And this adds up to just a lot of project area. 37 billion square feet of data has been processed by OpenSpace. And this, by the way, all with 99.999% uptime. So what does this mean? It means we're reliable. And we believe that no one can touch us in this regard. And by the way, we're not just reliable, we're fast. You know, when you upload that video after you do a job walk with us, the average turnaround time is around 15 minutes. It's very quick. That's some AI technology working very rapidly. And we need to be quick because job sites move quickly and our technology has to as well. And we're really proud of both that reliability and that speed. So yes, I think we have the scale, and hopefully these numbers prove it, but the scale also comes with another benefit, something we're really proud of, which is our team. Our team. A lot of our team members here at OpenSpace have almost literally walked in your shoes, or I guess your boots. They come from the industry. What that means is we know what you're dealing with. We understand your problems, and we can honestly interact with you and see if we can help you out. A lot of our folks at OpenSpace have actually been OpenSpace users before they joined us. And we think this is an important thing that we want to offer you, is just an understanding of what you're going through and an opportunity to have a conversation and see if we can help you. So yes, some cool numbers on scale and a great team. I want to get a little bit more specific though in the types of projects that people use our technology on. They do use us on big complex projects like hospitals. Chad here at US Engineering used us on a hospital project and leverage in particular our BIM capabilities to keep the project on track. Hospitals are complex. You know what's even more complex? City-scale oil and gas projects. ExxonMobil is one of our customers, and they use our technology to keep distributed teams on task. So yeah, you can use us on super big complex projects, but OpenSpace is really simple and easy to use. You can use us on just about anything. Let's take a look at journey construction. The project we're showing here is kind of a mixed-use multifamily project. Not uncomplicated, but not exactly a hospital, but OpenSpace was extremely valuable. But by the way, they've used us on all kinds of projects at Journey, including things like schools, even convenience stores. In fact, many of our customers don't do ground-up construction at all, just renovation and TI type projects. The point I'm trying to make here is that this type of technology, given our focus on simplicity and reliability, is not just for mega projects and complex stuff. It's for small ones, things that need to happen quickly. And that's kind of why we're able to achieve this scale, because the applicability of the technology is super broad. Okay, that's our scale story. I want to next move to AI and innovation. And innovation, yeah, it's another one of these sort of tech buzzwords, doing new stuff. What does it mean? Well, the way I interpret that is this: future-proofing. Future-proofing your business. At OpenSpace, we want to be your partner that helps you navigate a world that's changing fast, changing in terms of processes and changing in terms of technology. What we want to do is provide you with tools that, yes, keep you very competitive on the cutting edge, but not cutting edge tools that are so sharp they cut you. We want things that are reliable, and we take a lot of pride in that. So I want to talk about some of the new technologies that we are bringing to market right now. And I'm very excited to introduce a new set of technologies that we've been chipping away at over the past year and longer. We call that OpenSpace's Spatial AI. This is really cool stuff, okay? So what I want to do is just tell you what spatial AI means, unpack that term, and then give you a couple of examples, some teases really, on what this technology is really capable of doing and how it can really help you build more efficiently and simplify how the world gets built. So let's dig into it. Spatial AI. Okay, the first part is spatial computing. What is spatial computing? It's pretty simple. It just means computers being aware of what's going on in real physical reality. You know, not just a computer understanding a spreadsheet or a document or something typed in, but actually what's going on in the real physical world. You may have heard this term spatial computing before. Apple uses it to describe their Apple Vision Pro headset. But spatial computing isn't just limited to things that are complicated like this or laser scanners. It's really anything that's able to digitize reality, like, say, a 360 camera or something you probably have in your pocket right now. Your smartphone has a camera. It can digest a lot of information about what's going on out there in real reality. It does it, I'm sure, in your regular lives as consumers. And as you probably know, there's a lot of mobile phone photos being taken on your job site every day. And we've got some pretty cool new things that we're going to announce. You're going to hear from Neil, our VP of product, later about what we're doing with mobile phone photos. So that's spatial computing. Computers aware of real physical reality. And then we merge that with AI, which, in my simple definition, is making computers do smart stuff. Of course, the latest wave of this is large language models or generative AI. And we've been leveraging these technologies to build some cool stuff. If you look inside what we're doing here at OpenSpace, we take these inputs, like 360 videos and mobile phone photos, documents like drawings, and even tasks, which are logged in our field note system. We run it through this technology system composed of these two components, spatial computing and AI. And what we get out are two main things: context and insight. Context, what is going on with this information? Where was it taken? How can I make sense of what's actually getting flown into the database that OpenSpace is organizing for you? And insight, what does this data mean? Can I ask the system a question and get an answer quickly? That might sound all kind of abstract. So I want to be really concrete and give you two quick examples of what spatial AI technology can do. Let's talk a little bit about output on context. I mentioned mobile phone photos before. What we're going to enable you to do is upload those mobile phone photos into OpenSpace, and we built an AI assistant that will scan through those photos and figure out which ones it can actually just automatically pin to the drawing, all by itself. So that random pile of mobile phone photos suddenly becomes valuable because it now has location. That's one of the things spatial AI is capable of doing. You can see it right here. This photo right here was figured out that it landed at this particular part in the job. And there you go. That all happened just through the magic of the spatial AI technology. So we're giving a lot of meaning to these images. That's one example of providing context. What about insight? Well, we've been training our system to really understand what's going on in these images in a pretty powerful and pretty general way. It's pretty incredible, actually, to me. So what if you could just ask OpenSpace a question? What if you could just search OpenSpace, all this visual data, for things you're looking for? I'll give you an example. Let's say it's time to see if you can let the drywall crew start doing their job. Is the material there? Is it staged? Where is it? Well, why don't you just ask OpenSpace? Just type it in. Where are the pallets of drywall? Where are they stacked up? And it can find it. It's pretty amazing, right? Like being able to search all this data and find an answer super quickly. That's another power of spatial AI technology. And we are very stoked to be able to be leading the charge on this new way of getting the job done. Pretty cool stuff. Our AI and innovation story doesn't stop there, of course. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about progress tracking. So for those of you that may not be aware, we at OpenSpace have a progress tracking product that we call OpenSpace Track. And what it does is it's able to identify certain materials like framing, drywall that's hung, drywall that's taped, and using your takeoffs, figure out your percent complete. It's pretty handy, especially for trades that are very focused on these certain things that they need to know are getting done from 0, 50, 100%, which is great. But as we learned and talked to a lot more of you, especially in general contractors and owners side, all your projects are different. There is no one-size-fits-all solution for progress tracking. So we wanted to understand that and offer something that really gives you the flexibility, the comprehensiveness, and the reliability that you need to define how progress tracking should work for you. And we're very excited to announce something we call milestone tracking. And what milestone tracking does is it allows you to consult with us, figure out for that specific project, what are the key things you need to track, tasks, milestones versus your schedule, and input that into our system, and then we can track to see if that stuff is going according to plan. As I mentioned, it's very flexible. It has to be, because projects are all different, and there's no one-size-fits-all. So we can do that. It's comprehensive. What you need to track for your particular project, well, it can really depend. And this milestone tracking system can track almost 700 specific components, anything you can kind of see on the job site. And last, it's reliable. But what's the point if you can't trust the system? And the way we're achieving that is through a partnership with Disperse, a company that is a battle-tested, hardened, milestone-based progress tracking system that's been out for a long time. So with our milestone tracking offering, we're jointly offering you two things. One, the absolute best, most reliable capture system on the planet, which I submit as OpenSpace, with a battle-hardened system in Disperse. We're really excited to be writing this new chapter for progress tracking for the industry, and you're going to hear a lot more detail of how this works from Neil coming up. Okay, a lot of cool stuff we're doing on future-proofing your business. Man, I could spend an hour talking about that. And in fact, Mike, our CTO, is going to do a deep dive into spatial AI later, so definitely stay tuned for that, because it's pretty incredible stuff. Next topic, a third, productivity. Yeah, it's another one of these biz words. What do we really mean by productivity? Getting things done. Getting things done. That's what we want to do for you. Allow you to just do your job more efficiently through OpenSpace. And we've noticed that you're already doing this. We have field notes functionality, and a bunch of our customers are using it to do things like punch lists and just deal with tasks. It's just easier to do some things when you can see what's going on than just by reading words. And we noticed some other workflows that we thought could really benefit from this image-first type way of doing things. One of those is just checklists. Safety walks, QA, QC. What if you could just set up a checklist within OpenSpace, and as you walk around with a 360 camera or just your phone, you can say pass, fail, pass, fail. I mean, it's definitely better than paper and pen, that's for sure, but it's also better than just a regular old text-based mobile phone-based system. I mean, if you can see what's going on, you can trust the checklist was done right. So we're very excited to announce a new product we call Check Plus that allows you to do exactly that. It's simple. It's deceptively simple. Checklists are useful. They are how you get things done in construction and kind of anything. And we wanted to enable that directly within OpenSpace. And you're going to hear more about how this works, again, from Neil in his session. Last topic, ROI, return on investment. That's what we're all trying to do, right? You invest something, and you try to get return more than you invest. That's the goal of really any process or any business, really. How can we do that for you? Well, we already do that at OpenSpace, right, in a lot of ways. We know that some of our customers have cut their travel budgets in half because they just don't need to get people around the city or even the world when you have a system like ours. There are hundreds of stories where there's a change order or something that will really cost you money that's instantly squashed by OpenSpace that more than pays for the software. And stories where you can just have fewer people working on a job site because they can coordinate remotely. Those are all true and those are all great, and we're really proud of all that. But I want to say something bigger. What if we, as a technology company, can deliver not just that kind of ROI, but actually literally save you money for reals? Now, that might seem weird. How could a technology company actually do this, make your job more profitable or make the budget of a construction project less? It does sound weird, but it's happening and it's possible, and we're delivering it for you now. I want to tell you how this all came about with a few stories. One thing we noticed our customers doing in the past few years is all the things I mentioned, but also dealing with something in particular, insurance claims. I remember a few years ago, we had one of our customers building a stick frame construction project, and there were some kids next door who were lighting off some fireworks, which is bad. Don't use fireworks. Anyways, they did, and this building caught on fire. Now, it didn't totally destroy the whole building, but it caused a lot of fire damage, right? This is very bad. It's bad for a lot of reasons, obviously. One is you need to remediate that quick to keep your project on schedule, and two, you need to recoup the costs because that's an insurance claim. Luckily, these builders were using OpenSpace, and they said, aha, you know what we can do? Why don't we just share a link to OpenSpace with the insurance adjuster so they can process the claim virtually? And it worked. They were able to get the claim dealt within a day. That would have taken weeks otherwise to get someone on site. That was huge savings for this job, not just on the insurance claim, but also on the speed and keeping the job moving. Now, this isn't the only story we've heard. The next one I want to tell, it has to do with natural disasters and damage. And by the way, before I get into this, I know that we're currently doing something pretty scary in Florida. We have team members there, customers, and there's a lot of people, so our heart goes out to you. I just wanted to say that before I get into the next story, because these natural disasters are real, and they're a feature of modern life, and we need to adapt to them. And we see our customers doing that now. In fact, 2 years ago, when Hurricane Ian churned through Florida, we had DeAngelis Diamond building a project there. And they said, you know what, this is going to cause damage almost for sure. So what they did is they made sure to do a complete walk with OpenSpace prior to the storm hitting, and then went after. And then they had this record of the actual damage, and they could easily and quickly process the claim. You can see Drew right here. He says, this has aided in getting our owners' claims paid quickly and getting our subs back to work. So these stories piling up of people using OpenSpace to deal with insurance, which, as you all know, is a pretty costly part of the budget. So we started to think to ourselves, man, at the end of the day, if you think about the data collected by OpenSpace, it just makes projects less risky. It means if there's a claim, you can process it way more quickly. By the way, a lot of your insurance premium goes to funding claims processing, because it's hard to do in construction. And then we thought further, you know, I wonder if people that use OpenSpace just have fewer claims in general. Now, we're not an insurance company, so we just speculated. But it turns out an actual insurance company studied this. And because OpenSpace is operating at scale, there's a lot of data out there and a lot of examples of people using our technology. They're able to study it and prove to themselves, as an insurance carrier, some pretty interesting things. Number one, if you look at all the customers that use OpenSpace versus those that don't, the frequency of claims of OpenSpace users is far less, dramatically less, than those that don't use the technology. Even more profound, if you take a given builder and you look at their claims frequency prior to using our technology, then after, the claims frequency goes down a lot. And what this insurance carrier, who you're going to hear from more, Shepherd, realized is like, hey, that's competitive advantage. That's risk we can underwrite. What if we can go out to market and for anybody that's using OpenSpace, provide a big discount, up to 25% on their insurance premium? And by the way, I'm talking about wrap policies, OSIPs, CSIPs, the kinds of policies that cover pretty much anything and everything that goes on a job site. This is now a reality. Shepherd has partnered with us to offer savings to all of you that use OpenSpace technology to provide real, genuine, large discounts, up to 25%, as I mentioned. Here's a project, it's a pretty large one. You can look at the quote without using OpenSpace and the quote using OpenSpace, and adds up to an incredible amount of money, more than 200 grand. That's a lot. And by the way, just to be super clear, these discounts are going to be more than the cost of OpenSpace software. So we are literally putting profit back on your pocket. It's just that simple. So for all you CFOs and CEOs that are watching this, maybe you're asleep for everything I was saying about productivity, AI, and innovation and scale. But wake up for this. Use our OpenSpace technology and literally save money. I mean, I don't know. To me, this gets us into absolute no-brainer status. You should just use this technology and scale it up across your entire enterprise. It just doesn't make sense not to. So pretty cool, pretty exciting, and for us, we're proud of this, to be able to make a literal dent in your business to help you become more profitable and do whatever you want with that profit. You can bank it, maybe you can beat more competitive bids, or maybe you can give your team members bigger bonuses at the end of the year. Your call. So those are my 4 themes. Scale. We are operating at a scale that I don't think anybody in our category is, which means that we're reliable. We can throw something at us and we can handle it. And innovation, we are investing in technologies that we think really move the needle for you. They're very powerful. They're complex under the hood, but they're simple to use. Productivity, we just want to help you get more of your work done in an image-first way when it's appropriate. And last, use OpenSpace and just save money. It's that simple. So, like I said, we've grown a lot this year. We've been working on a lot of cool stuff. And the rest of Waypoint, we're going to go do some deeper dives into all the things I had a chance to talk to about just now and introduce. And with that, I think we're going to cut over and learn more about how you can use OpenSpace to save money on your insurance policy.
Industry around insurance. So first, Justin, can you please give us an intro to yourself and Shepherd?
Sure. Thanks, Robert, and thanks for having me on Waypoint this year. My name is Justin. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Shepherd. I spent my whole career in commercial construction. Originally was a civil engineer in the industry, and then took a path through finance and risk management. Ultimately led to founding my first startup, which is a company called TradeTap, which we eventually sold to Autodesk. So Shepherd is my second startup in the construction space, really founded on this idea that insurance companies could be looking differently at tools and technology and the impacts that those have from a risk management perspective on insurance claims.
Excellent. And then specifically, we are working together on something called Shepherd Savings. Can you please describe that program in a little more detail?
Yeah, I mean, Shepherd Savings was honestly the core vision of why we founded the company. We really wanted to be able to deliver on this promise that if a company had invested in a tool like OpenSpace, and we have other partners in different categories as well, that we could underwrite that data and we could ultimately give them dollars back in their pocket in order to continue those types of investments. So Shepherd Savings is an insurance program. It applies to all of our casualty products. So Shepherd today provides general liability, workers' compensation, commercial auto, as well as excess liability. And what we do is we take the information and the utilization data about how a contractor uses a tool like OpenSpace. We include that in the underwriting, and then we apply credits and savings directly onto our insurance proposals. Ultimately, what that looks like and where that becomes valuable is it's dollars. So reduced premiums on top tier, top quality coverage that serve contractors who ultimately are all doing the best things they can do to reduce claims.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to go we'll get into Shepherd Savings in more detail in a minute, but we're going to start kind of broad. And I want to get your thoughts on kind of what are some of the market challenges out there, also some of the opportunities, and then why is now the right time to found a company like Shepherd and to launch a program like Shepherd Savings?
And so we've entered the construction insurance market at a time where we feel like it is ripe for innovation. The old way of doing things, underwriting using the same data points, looking at contractors the exact same way year over year, projects, owners, developers, it hasn't really worked in terms of sustainability. And so, we feel like Shepherd is an answer to a lot of those problems. It doesn't mean that claims are immediately going to go away, but we do think that insurance carriers can be better partners to their clients and the ones that ultimately they're providing coverage to, so that we can continue to reduce the claim curve over time, as customers lean in on these things that are making them better risks.
Great. And then for folks who might not be aware, what's a typical sort of insurance percentage of project that a company, a contractor, or builder might spend on insurance today?
Yeah, it's meaningful, and part of the reason why we focus on an industry like commercial construction, and even more specifically, Shepherd is kind of a middle market and larger type of insurance carrier. So businesses as small as 25 million in construction volume, all the way up through multi-billion in scale. Typically, on an annual basis, a contractor is spending about 1% of their construction volume or their revenue on insurance. So, a $100 million business might spend $1 million on insurance premium every year across, multiple different coverage lines and things of that nature. On a project specific, so in many cases, for a large project, we'll see, what is referred to as a wrap-up be the preferred method of delivering insurance. So that's one insurance policy that's covering all the different trades and contractors that are operating on that particular job site, and typically this makes sense on larger projects. And that can be anywhere from 3 to 10% of project costs just for the insurance alone. And so when you move the needle on something like insurance, you do really move the needle in terms of competitiveness. One contractor's rates versus another can be the difference between whether or not they win and lose a project. And then honestly, on the project side, for a standalone project, it can be the difference between whether or not that project even goes and becomes a real project, or whether or not it's delayed or even abandoned over the long term.
Yeah, very interesting. So I'm going to jump right down into Shepherd Savings. Of course, this is an OpenSpace conference, so I want to talk about OpenSpace. And right, surprise. And you did the math. So can you talk a little bit about sort of what you saw when customers were using OpenSpace versus those who were not using OpenSpace, and some of the numbers that came out of the analysis?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna share some slides here so we can all look at some of the data. Obviously, some things that we've analyzed become part of our secret sauce, but from a upfront perspective, what matters here first and foremost is dollars. We are able to offer, in many cases, up to 25% difference in terms of lower premium on what we refer to as a Shepherd Savings policy versus a traditional or basic policy. And this gets applied on annual practice programs, the once per year purchases that cover the majority of a project, as well as those large project-specific policies that are often referred to as OSIP or CSIP projects. So lower premiums is value number one. Value number two, which we are really excited about as well, for those annually renewing programs, we're often able to offer multi-years. This is an answer to a lot of the instability and inconsistency that contractors are facing every single year, where they really have no idea what their rate renewal is going to look like. We're actually able to tailor this program and guarantee rate renewals at flat or slightly above that, but within a certain cap. If a contractor is going to be agreeing to utilizing a tool like OpenSpace or others at the same or even better levels throughout the term of their policy.
Great. So if I look at that 25% number from the previous slide, it seemed like the numbers you just said before, between 3 to 10% insurance cost per project, that would more than pay for OpenSpace. Is that typically the case?
Yeah, honestly, we wouldn't do the program, and we don't think that it would make as much, really wouldn't be as compelling if we weren't able to basically offset the entire cost of a product like OpenSpace. We want to make it a no-brainer. We want somebody to look at a proposal from Shepherd and say, I'm almost always going to choose Shepherd Savings. I'm always going to lean into the technology and the adoption, because not only am I getting that cost reimbursed through lower premiums, but I'm actually even saving on top of that. So oftentimes we exceed the cost of OpenSpace when we are providing a Shepherd savings proposal. And the sort of just to jump into some of the data, the math, the rationale behind why we're able to feel so confident. Generally speaking, we have seen that contractors who adopt OpenSpace tend to outperform by some really, really big percentages. So everything that you see up on this slide, 50% less claims from a frequency perspective. This is all general liability that we're talking about. So the GL coverage line, 57% reduction by top users. So we see that contractors who lean on an OpenSpace more often tend to, or in a more consistent way, with the top utilization metrics tend to outperform even further. And then these bottom two metrics, 41% post-adoption reduction in claim frequency. That means that once contractors start adopting OpenSpace, not only do they start from a good place, but they actually get to a much better place really, really quickly. So claims go down almost immediately. And that translates to almost 26% loss rate reduction, meaning the average size of a claim of a business who is utilizing OpenSpace is about 1/4 less than their peers in the industry.
Yeah, that's amazing. Which therefore you can give this 25% discount or up to 25% premium reduction with confidence because of these numbers kind of backing it up. The flip side, right, is that, wait, do I have to do a bunch of reporting, and what does usage mean, and what does adoption mean? So what does adoption mean? What, when you say, if you use and utilize OpenSpace, you will get these premium, you're eligible for these premium reductions. What does use and utilize mean?
Yeah, honestly, we view this as standard usage, meaning, for the most part, weekly capture of a job site. If we're talking about a building with multiple floor plans and stories, we're talking about capturing the entire project at least once per week. Obviously, on a project by project basis, the amount of captures and the frequency is going to make sense or be tailored to that particular job. But where we see the best results is when contractors are choosing to do job walks at least once per week, which we believe to be pretty standard in terms of most OpenSpace customers.
Yeah, and that's what's exciting, right? Is that this is just the stuff you're already doing as an OpenSpace user makes you eligible for this. There's no extra on top. So that's super exciting. Yeah, and I know we just launched this a few months ago. I think we've had several engagements with customers. Happy to say we've actually closed our first deal together. What learnings do you have so far, and how's it going?
Yeah, first and foremost, really excited about that first net new deal. So that's a customer who purchased OpenSpace for a project that otherwise may not have purchased OpenSpace on that particular project. But we've had, as Robert knows, we've had dozens of customers who have already been able to take advantage of discounts just by virtue of their existing use of OpenSpace. So we extend this program, obviously, to everybody that's already utilizing the tool. And so it's going well. I think that the big frontier for us is the ability to influence the way that contractors, and in some cases, owners and developers think about the deployment of technology on a net new project or across their portfolio. So we see value not only in rewarding customers who are already doing the right things, but incentivizing them to start to think about what they could be doing to benefit themselves on the insurance side immediately.
Yeah, and so just to sort of drill into that, obviously the two ways here are, you've got an OSIP or a CSIP that you're running if you're owner or a contractor, and you're not currently using OpenSpace on that project, and then this premium reduction could very likely pay for OpenSpace. Or if you're using OpenSpace on a large number of your projects, if you went more broadly across enterprise and up the percentage of projects that have OpenSpace, then you're eligible for more discounts across different lines. And so both of those vectors, if you will, are things that we're working on. And so either you're already using it and you can just get credit for that, or this is more reason to move it into more projects. So it's very exciting. So thank you for all of that, Justin. I think given time, I think we want to wrap up here. always like to land with some clear next steps. And so not so much on this Shepherd savings part, we'll talk about that in a minute, but generally, are there kind of 2 or 3 things that you might recommend either execs at builders or risk managers? What can they do, or sort of tangible things they can do to get ahead of the curve?
In the future, and where we're in some ways already living, and in many ways where we're headed, is that the role of risk management needs to extend into the operations side of the business, specifically for where technology is being purchased and deployed. We run into a lot of customers who are deploying different technologies throughout their portfolio. And we find generally that the customers who are adopting a more standardized approach, one set of technologies, one technology stack, if you will, actually leads to more effective results, because they can really hone in on how do they want to use these tools, and then they can apply that consistently across the portfolio. So standardization is a theme that I would certainly recommend to as many risk managers who are getting involved in the technology decision making. And then finally, I think for a lot of risk managers, getting up to speed on like what are the technologies that the company has deployed. What are being used? What are the things that have traditionally been focused on productivity and efficiency, and in some cases, quality and safety? Now it's important to start thinking about these as risk management tools, not just workflow tools.
Yeah, really a seat at the table, and not only a seat at the table, but a way to save the company, dollars by doing that. So that's exciting. And of course, again, that's what we believe in, is that the technologies that are actually being used in the field and loved by the field are the ones that are going to have the most impact on risk, because that's what's actually out there. So getting risk managers to really dig into what's really being used, what's the reality in the field, what do the field teams think about technology? I think that's really important first step. Yeah, and then just to land all this, of course, if anyone's interested in Shepherd Savings, we would love to get your take on exactly what they should do to reach out to get more information. So what are the next steps there if they want to learn more?
Yeah, we obviously have a website, and we have contact that you can get in touch with us. We'd love for you to also get in touch with your OpenSpace account executive. We work through the brokerage channel, so we're going to pull in your broker and make sure they're aware of your outreach, and make sure that we're getting involved at your next renewal or the next large project that you might be doing. But yeah, we're here for you. We want to get in touch. We want to tell you more about the program. We want to answer questions about the data and the way that we analyze, and ultimately how we give feedback. So I would start with your OpenSpace contact, your account executive, as well as your broker.
Great. Okay, well, I think that wraps it up. Thank you very much for the time. I think it was very interesting. Obviously, we're very excited about this program. I think we've spent years talking to multiple carriers, brokers, insurers, that type of thing, and no one's really been able to connect the dots between the risk reduction of OpenSpace and premium reduction. And so it's really exciting. So thank you, Justin, for being here, and thanks for the partnership.
Thank you, Robert. This has been fun.
All right.
Thank you, Justin and Robert. That was some great stuff. I love how in Jeevan's presentation, he took these phrases we hear a lot in the media today, generative AI and spatial computing, that typically have a lot of buzzwords and hype around them, and he's talking about how we here at OpenSpace are cutting through that and finding real applications of this tech that we can put in the hands of builders to help simplify how the world gets built. I also love how Justin and Robert expanded upon that and talked about how those real applications can actually objectively lower the risk it takes to build a construction project. And through that, in Jeevan's words, put money back in your pocket for reals. From here, I'm going to go ahead and keep things moving. I'm going to pass things over to Neil Sheath, OpenSpace's Vice President of Product, who's going to be talking about some innovative stuff that we're really excited to share with y'all.
Hello, everyone. My name's Neil. I'm on our product team here at OpenSpace, and I'm really excited to talk to you more about how our product is having an impact today and to share some exciting announcements with you about where we're headed. To give you a quick map about what we're going to cover, I wanted to reflect back on some of the themes that Jeevan just touched on. We're going to talk today about how our product today is delivering at scale, and specifically enterprise scale, for larger and larger projects, but also for organizations that are deploying OpenSpace across a larger number of projects. We're going to touch on productivity, or as Jeevan mentioned, how we can help you get things done more efficiently, but using the power of imagery that we help you collect through our platform. We're of course going to touch on AI. As Wes mentioned, we're really thinking about how to take AI and put it into your hands and make it useful, and to take some of these game-changing technologies, help them assist you, but also maybe get new insights about what's happening out in the field. And of course, we're going to touch on ROI really throughout the entire talk, because at the end of the day, if none of this actually helps you save money and helps you kind of improve the bottom line, then we're really not doing our job, and we really want to make sure that we're doing that. So with that, we've got a lot to cover, so I'm going to dive right in. So scale, I had to put this slide back up there just because the stats are really impressive, and just we're really proud of this. The fact that we're up to over 250,000 active users, 37 billion square foot of coverage on our platform, this is really fantastic, and it continues to be a core theme of our entire R&D team to ensure that we can deliver at this scale. So as you're capturing more and more projects, we invest a ton of energy to make sure all that data that's coming through gets processed quickly and accurately, continue to maintain those incredible 15-minute turnaround times on average, as well as investments that continue to make the actual user experience scale as well. There's a few things I wanted to spotlight in that vein that include recent launches, things like our multi-floor capture feature, which makes it really, really simple and quick for you when you're capturing a large project, say with multiple floors, to start a capture and indicate that you want to move to a next sheet and to jump into that really quickly. So you don't have to stop a transfer and then continue on by having to make another click. It also includes our overhead capture feature, which makes it really easy to take above head captures and have all of that data seamlessly stored and recallable alongside the rest of your captures. It includes things like an updated minimap, that little square when you're walking around captures that allows you to understand exactly where things are at. And now it's sort of we're expanding that, so that's another way you can navigate through the host of captures and field notes that you're collecting on your job sites. But all of this also includes just an easier way to administer as you're deploying across projects and adding all those new users in, how you can manage them cleanly, import users from other project management tools, and manage them in bulk. So you can make sure everyone that needs to have access really does. One-on-one, each of these improvements seem kind of small, but as they all come together, they really do add up to an easier and better way for you to deploy OpenSpace across projects. So you'll continue to see us investing in things like that. But ultimately, our real goal is to ensure that OpenSpace becomes this conduit, a visual context of what's happening on a job site, and connecting that in to your teams and the tools that you're using every day as an enterprise. And to this vein, I want to talk to you a little bit more now about what we're doing to make this vision more of a reality. To do that, I actually wanted to first spotlight a customer that's been with us for a really long time, and that's Rosen Electric, the top 3 electrical contract in the US, as indicated by ENR. They've got a really strong focus on large projects like data centers, some high-tech office space, but also some really cool projects like the renovation of Terminal 1 at SFO here in the Bay Area. As Rosen scaled with us over the last 4 years, they've gone from their first initial projects to now over 90 active projects where they're actively capturing and managing all the data flowing through OpenSpace so that they can continue to get visibility across all of these projects. And when you're operating at that scale, one of the most important things you want to be able to do, as we've talked with customers operating at that scale, is really just keep tabs on where captures are happening, where they're not happening, and ultimately, to that point on ROI, ensuring that the investment that you're making into a tool like OpenSpace is really paying off. So with that, Rosen was a great customer that piloted with us some new capabilities that we're about to launch a little bit more broadly within our usage APIs. What this really does is allow you to connect to OpenSpace via an API and grab a ton of really useful statistics. Things like where captures are happening, how often they're happening, how long captures, how the duration of captures that are being taken, and all of that accessible in a way where you can pull that into the tools of choice within your enterprise. These are all examples of dashboards that some of our pilot customers have made. And I wanted to quickly show you a little bit of what Rosenden specifically did in creating dashboards specific for every single site that they are capturing on, so then they can know when captures are happening, the trends along those captures, how long, and the durations of the captures that they actually made, but largely just giving them a site-by-site view of what's really happening. They also built aggregations of all of this so they can know trends across sites, when potentially that coverage of a particular site has declined, and ultimately just gives them the tools to really understand when and where things are happening. Again, super powerful because it allows across all 90 sites a centralized view of what's happening and allows folks across the organization to be able to have one place to look at everything that's happening inside of OpenSpace. As we partnered with Rosenden, specifically the data analyst team, Theodore here gave us a lot of great feedback and specifically mentioned how being able to keep tabs on not just any one tool, but really all tools being deployed in enterprise is really important. And Theodore works across all departments at Rosenden and really sort of appreciated the fact that this was a really great way to plug into, in their case, Power BI as the core tool that allows everyone across the organization to be able to see what's happening and to be able to come together when necessary to make sure things weren't happening correctly, that they could get that on track again. So it's really great to get that customer feedback that these users APIs is a great first step. And as I mentioned before, we've been in beta for a little while, but we're going to be expanding access more generally at the end of 2024 to this new API endpoint. That's a first step for us to get better connectivity into enterprises with OpenSpace. But what I'm really excited about what we're working on next. And really the core data elements inside of OpenSpace, the imagery that we collect, as well as the activity happening inside of field nodes, is the next frontier for us to bring that data more directly into the tools that our customers, as well as potential partners, are interested in, so that we can, again, build the right tool stack for you to deploy OpenSpace across enterprises. The Images API in particular is an interesting one because it, again, allows us to start to pull OpenSpace imagery in new and exciting ways to deliver better value for you. And that's where I kind of want to head next. Jeevan talked about this a little bit, how we're really thinking about progress tracking as a critical enterprise workflow, and expanding the types of progress tracking solutions that we want to make available to you is a really big focus for us, especially as we think about deploying to larger enterprises. Now, we've been in the game for progress tracking for a little while. Our OpenSpace Track solution we see as a really useful and great way to think about progress in terms of quantities and mapping those quantities against sheets. A solution like that works really well, especially for our trades customers, but we've gotten tons of feedback, and what we've really learned is that different types of customers operating at different scales on different kinds of projects may need different types of solutions. And so what we're really excited about talking to you now is about milestone tracking, really a broadened offering that allows you to define and set milestones of your choice. In many cases, that could make sense to be scheduled milestones that you want to track against, and then effectively across pretty much anything happening on a project, being able to track progress against that and have that connected back to your schedule so all those milestones can be unified in terms of how you're viewing progress against them. So we're really excited about this, and in order to accomplish this, looking at using our Images API to build really strong partnerships within the ecosystem. And Jeevan teased this a bit, but Disperse is our partner of choice for milestone tracking, and they've been a friend of ours, and we've admired them for some time. They've been in the market for quite some time, and as Jeevan called it, a battle-hardened solution. We're really excited to bring the best of two worlds together. Our scaled capture platform, which really helps ensure you can get that critical data about what's happening on the field into our platform, but then to partner that up with Disperse's scaled progress tracking operation that allows us to give you the best of both worlds. When we think about a solution like this, why we're really excited about it: one, it's reliable, two, scaled solutions partnering together. Two, it's comprehensive. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what Disperse can actually track, but just think about it as anything happening that's visual on a job site, we can help you track progress against it. And three, it's really flexible. So whether it's a large project or a small one, whether you have specific customizations that may be necessary, we can accommodate for those as well. So how could a progress tracking solution like this really work? It's really quite simple. You would deploy OpenSpace and Capture as you normally would on any project by which you want to have progress tracking. Behind the scenes, OpenSpace and Disperse will synchronize data with one another, no additional steps on your end. And then what you get as a result are dashboards of progress data that are accessible on the Disperse side, but also easily linked on OpenSpace as well. A solution like this doesn't require a BIM model, but if you have one, that's great. We can take it in and help accelerate the setup of a project. It connects to your schedule if you'd like. And again, you can define those milestones in any way for a specific project and tie those to the schedule if that's the best way to see this information. And dashboards are unified. So you have one place to look for anyone inside of the organization to know where things really at. And in terms of, again, the breadth and the scope of things that we can track, because Disperse has been working and refining their solution for so long, there's a huge host, there's a huge toolbox here of things that right out of the box we're compatible with. But once again, we can also customize when necessary for special situations. And so this is what we're really excited about, just right out of the gate, being able to track just about anything happening on large enterprise scale projects and combining that with OpenSpace such that you've got a really great enterprise scale solution for milestone tracking. So once you have this all set up, what's really powerful, again, is reporting, as we call it, in any level. So if you're thinking about reporting at the highest level of a project, say there are multiple buildings as part of a program, you can look at things at that level. You get great views around how you're progressing against schedule milestones, if that's the best view. But we've gotten a ton of great feedback from our early pilot customers on this view on the left that sort of gives you a building level view, floor by floor, which is really pretty incredible. And each of those little squares is actually a zone or a region inside of a floor that you can get both progress data on, as well as a week by week pace. So you can understand not just where progress is, but how that's trending. And those two data points across an entire building at any given time is a really powerful data set and a really powerful view upon which you can centralize everyone's attention. So you can know where to focus yourself, where things are going well, where things are going wrong. And again, we're really excited by the feedback we're hearing about this. So with this new offering, again, we're not just thinking about this in the short term. Disperse has been in the market for quite some time. Canary Wharf here shared a lot of their thoughts on just how well this has worked for them over the past number of years, which is, again, all of what we're really thinking about with enterprise scale. How do we take the best of what OpenSpace does and the best of what Disperse does, bring that together, serve it up to all of you, make that accessible to you so that if that makes the most sense for how you want to track progress, it's something you can deploy. So with that, again, super excited about where we're at. We're early right now in testing this out with some pilot customers. So we're remaining in a closed beta through Q4, but expecting to bring this available more widely at the beginning of next year. If you have interest in this, definitely reach out to your reps who can tell you a little bit more about the process to be considered, to be added to that beta. But again, we're really soon, very shortly, expecting to expand this to more and more customers. And bringing this back to enterprise scale, this is really one of the ways we expect to really help large-scale organizations standardize capturing as a regular activity, as well as using a centralized view of progress to really keep everyone in sync on what's most important. So enterprise scale, big theme of ours, but love to shift gears and talk a little bit more about productivity. And with productivity, again, that may be a buzzword, but at the end of the day, if you can get the job done more quickly, more efficiently, that's really powerful. As we studied this problem, and we've had a lot of folks that have used tools and features in our current platform today, like field notes, that gave us a lot of indication that there's potentially more we can do. And one customer that ramped up with us earlier in the year is Intex, electrical contractor based in Texas. And as they were ramping up their capture procedures, we were speaking with them, and they were telling us quite a bit about how it was amazing to have this modern technology stack to get visual information off of a job site, where there were still so many aspects of their operation that seemed pretty basic and still running off of pen and paper. And as Intex works on a lot of projects that are municipalities, schools, some residential buildings as well, there are a lot of day-to-day tasks that literally required folks to walk the job site manually and just look at things on clipboards. So literally thinking about, hey, if we're walking a job site to inspect and validate that things are actually done correctly, someone's walking out there with the clipboard and they were literally carrying binders of these things across job sites to coordinate amongst teams. And we looked at that and just said, well, there are a lot of reasons why this is something that we can do better. And more importantly, why should OpenSpace participate in this? Because a lot of the problems Intex was facing was around sharing context of what was actually happening in the field. And an image, in many cases, is a better way to get the point across around, here's a particular issue. Oh, this is exactly what it looks like. Or here's an issue that is now complete and I have proof of that with the image that was taken. So as we were talking about that and thinking about where we could push some of our core capabilities around field notes, we took all of that feedback from Intex and other customers and decided to put together a new offering called Check Plus. And the way you should think about this is we're basically building a really flexible and powerful checklist capability directly into OpenSpace so that any sort of task that requires you to have a written record of what was done can be configured into OpenSpace. You could have someone log into their OpenSpace account and actually go and perform that checklist, whether or not you're capturing, but also tie all of that information about what was done to imagery and have all of that spatially tied together in our platform. So it's a really powerful combination of what we already do with additional capabilities that allow you to run these new workflows directly inside of OpenSpace. So what is that really going to look like? I've got a quick video here that'll walk you through. If you log into the mobile app and already have checklist configured, which again, we focus a lot on simplicity. You can choose the checklist that you're trying to do a walk for, tell us where you are on the job site initially, and then just walk as you normally would, say with the clipboard, and list off this passed, this failed. And again, everything is customizable, the questions you would ask, the responses. And at the time that say something fails, you can directly add an image while you're there so that that flows through as well. It can be a more efficient way of communicating. You can sign off on that checklist, and all of that synchronizes back to the rest of your data on OpenSpace so that this lives alongside everything else that you're doing. And again, I mentioned this before, but all of these procedures, when you're out in the field, can be done whether or not you're actually, you have a camera on hand. So we're expanding access to OpenSpace and bringing in more context of what's happening in the field to larger and larger groups of folks within your organizations. And that's really our intent, was thinking about how we can help you get things done more efficiently with OpenSpace. So Intex, again, gave us a ton of feedback along the way. They've been really excited to move to a more digital form of working on QA/QC workflows, but also bringing imagery into the mix. And again, customers are really our guideposts as we're thinking about things like this, and we're really excited to get more of you in on this so we can continue to refine it. To that end, Check Plus is currently in beta. If you are interested in what you hear here, I've got a QR code so you can take a quick snapshot of that. I think we're going to post a link in the chat as well, such that if you're interested, let us know. We can try to get more people into the beta through the end of this year. We have plans to make this generally available as an add-on at the beginning of next year as well. And what you get out of the box are the full checklist capabilities, the ability to configure org level and project checklists, tying all of that information back to your captures and generating reports. All of this are part of the baseline capabilities. But what I also want to reinforce is that checklist is part of the overall platform that OpenSpace has to allow you to get work done. And we're continuing to invest as well, and you'll see here some additional improvements to our core field notes platform, including org-wide statuses and tags, as well as much more robust integration so that two-way synchronization between our field notes platform and other project management tools can happen more seamlessly. And so again, checklists, the beginning of us expanding into these workflows, and I wanted to continue to spotlight more of what we are doing on the field note platform overall. So what you'll see here in this video are enhancements you're going to start to see go live over the next coming months on field notes, where in this case we're creating an entirely new view that we call Field Note Explorer that allows you to, any field note that's taken, you can have an indexed view of that. You can sort, you can filter, you can generate reports off of all of your field notes. You can also manage them or make changes with them in bulk. So this really just now gives you a new window into looking across all of your field notes if you're starting to think about using them as an issue tracker, for instance. And again, this is capability that's going to be deployed to everyone using Capture and starting to think about using field notes a little bit more broadly. And to that same end, as more folks are using field notes, we're getting a lot of feedback on just how great it is, potentially as an issue tracking tool or as a tool to track and complete and show completion of a lot of the things that are being surfaced in field notes. And so we've gotten a lot of feedback around needing better visibility into all of the changes literally happening to field notes itself. And so we're excited to expand and invest in our core platform so that you have a true audit log of what is happening inside of field notes. So every action that's taken on field note, whether that's a status change or a comment that's made, you'll know who made that change and when that happened. And it gives you now a much more solid record of what happened inside of field notes. So if you're truly thinking about using these as an issue tracking tool, you have all the historical evidence that was necessary to really make that a reliable way to run that workflow. So in summary, with productivity, a lot of investment happening to start to test some of those new workflows. And again, excited to get folks into that Check Plus beta if that's of interest to you. So last theme that I want to focus on is AI and innovation. And as Jeevan mentioned, this is a really exciting area for us. We've worked on AI tools for quite some time, but there are some incredible things happening that have been happening over the past year that we want to talk to you about. And Spatial AI, just as a quick reminder, is our encapsulation of that opportunity. There are inputs coming into our platform. Think of different pieces of context coming in from the job site that we're looking at continuing to expand, but also new technology, new forms of AI, like spatial computing and generative AI, that give us new insights and new context about what's happening on the job site. And what I wanted to focus on today was actually mobile photos specifically. And we've had mobile photos on our platform really for some time. Those field notes and checklists that we just talked about, you can snap photos from your phone and include those in those already. But what we want to do is start to think of mobile photos and make mobile photos really a first-class capture object in our platform as well. Because we've gotten a lot of feedback for some time that while even though customers may be capturing 2 to 3 times a week using a 360 camera, there are still hundreds of photos that are being taken on a job site from folks that don't have a 360 camera. And those photos potentially aren't really where they need to be to be useful. So day-to-day, people that have phones are constantly taking photos. Those photos will very commonly, as customers tell us, end up in places like a data store that looks something like this. And while that's stored, it's ultimately not useful because it's incredibly difficult to figure out how to come back to that. Some of you may laugh at the folder structure here, but this is literally the real folder structure that a customer told us is being used on one of their job sites. And so this is just a realistic interpretation of what it really feels like if you're taking all these photos. Even though you've taken them, if you can't get back to them, this is just really frustrating and not useful. And this is where we think there's a great opportunity and why we're investing in making mobile photos a first-class citizen alongside 360 captures as a tool to bring visual context into our platform. So what will this look like? Pretty simple, actually. Within the mobile app, we're making it easy for you to select a few images that are on your phone, upload those to OpenSpace, whichever project that you would like, and as those come into our system, we store them alongside, in a generalized way, all those 360 captures. Now, I mentioned before that just synchronizing images to the cloud, that's potentially useful, but not as useful as it really could be if you can actually organize that information and organize that visual data so that you can recall it. And this is where the magic of the OpenSpace platform and Spatial AI really comes to play. So what really happens here is as that synchronizes to our back end, we can process that and index those against existing 360 captures. And if we find matches, we can automatically locate where those mobile photos were taken without you having to tell us. And that's really amazing, again, because knowing where that picture was taken and having it pinned automatically to a sheet makes it much easier to get back to that image. You know where it was taken, and potentially if you're looking at a sheet or a capture and you want to have an additional photo of what was going on in that space, it's already indexed there for you. And what's amazing about this is that the more you capture, the more 360 information that you have about a job site, the more commonly we're able to take these mobile photos and pin them automatically for you. Now, in the cases where maybe you haven't done 360 captures yet, we're going to make it really easy for you to pin these yourself in those sort of exception cases. But again, we're excited by the fact that we can make this as automated as possible, and AI really becomes an assistant here to take that data, frame it in a way where it can be recalled really easily, and for that to be even more useful for you. So now we'll have 360 captures as well as mobile photos of a space spatially and time indexed for you, and we're really excited about getting that into more customers' hands. But going even beyond that, as Jeevan mentioned, our spatial AI techniques can really zoom in and actually interpret what is happening inside of that visual information. And so what we can really do then is really unlock the power of AI and start to expose that to you all in interesting ways, and we're excited to do that through a search capability. Search is something that we've thought about for a long time. It's taken a while for us to really find the right moment to deploy a true search solution for folks. And we're excited now with the advancement of technology to start to expose that to folks. And what we're showing here in this video is through our mobile photos capability and the power of spatial AI, allowing folks to start to search for objects inside of imagery, in this case, ladders, text, an exit sign, potentially text on signs if that's something you're trying to find, but also starting to get at some broader concepts. For instance, if you're trying to look across your image base for where framing might be actually happening, you can type that into a search query and start to see images that look as if framing has started or framing is occurring. And we're really excited about this because this is now the starting point of a whole host of directions that our technology can take us, including starting to take the same technology and applying it to any form of visual imagery that we have, 360 captures, anything eventually that we're compatible with. And that's really where we want to take this. The idea of having one source of truth for all your visual imagery and having that indexable and searchable, we think is a game-changing set of technologies that we're excited to start to expose more people to. And applying this across all of the use cases from progress tracking and beyond are definitely in our interest. But with mobile photos right now, it's really the first of many steps. And this is now a capability that we're going to start to roll more customers onto. So really quickly looking at the roadmap, one slide too far, getting back for a second. Mobile photos and image search, both in beta as we speak. We're going to start to roll customers onto that. If you're interested, again, reach out to your reps, and we're going to start to bring people onto this by the end of 2024. And that includes the auto pinning capabilities, so matching those mobile photos as you upload those to existing captures, but also the manual pinning capabilities when you need that. Image search as well, starting to roll out on the same timeline. And the combination of these two things is really the starting point of us taking a new direction and using AI across our data. And so coming soon beyond that, taking the same techniques, applying that to 360 captures, other data types as well. And really what I wanted to get across here is the fact that this is just the starting point of this. Mike is going to go a little bit more deeper into the core technology here, why it's really exciting and interesting. So stay tuned for that. But tons of great launches that I'm excited to kind of wrap up on with AI. So we've come a long way. We've talked about a number of things around scale and OpenSpace delivering capabilities today, operating at a large scale, but new capabilities like our usage API, as well as a brand new game-changing version of progress tracking in partnership with Disperse to help you deploy progress tracking at enterprise scale. We talked about productivity and how new capabilities like Check Plus, but continued investments in our Field Notes platform will help you get work done in an image-first way more efficiently. We talked about AI and how mobile photos, but as well as spatial AI enabling new things like auto pinning of mobile photos and search will just allow you to get at the context of what's happening on your job sites more quickly as well. And altogether, we think these are going to be tools that will really help you save time, save money, and ultimately operate your job sites more efficiently. So very excited by the roadmap, very excited by the things to come, and very excited to get all of your feedback because customer feedback really, truly is the lifeblood of how we take our roadmaps. And with that in mind, I'm going to hand things off so that you can hear more from customers about how they are using and deploying OpenSpace today. Thanks.
Thank you, Neil. That was some awesome stuff. We at OpenSpace have been so excited to share this with you all and can't wait to put it in the hands of you, our customers. These tools are meant to help your teams operate at scale, keep your jobs moving, automate traditionally tedious tasks, and really just make it incredibly easy and quick for your teams to find answers to their questions. I know from my personal experience in construction that if I could have had automatically located pictures instead of swimming in job folders with hundreds of photos, I could have saved myself considerable amounts of time, money, and headaches. We're about to go on a brief break, but as a reminder, if you want to network with other people during our break session, you can click the networking button on the left-hand toolbar. And also, if you want to join our Check Plus waitlist, go to our website, OpenSpace.ai, and I believe we also have a link to join the waitlist in the chat. Thanks. Welcome back, everybody. Next, we're going to be moving on to my personal favorite part of the day, where we're going to be hearing from some top OpenSpace customers on how they've effectively implemented OpenSpace at an enterprise scale, used us to quickly solve problems and accelerate project schedules, and how they've used OpenSpace to tie into the rest of their technology suite to fit into their enterprise workflows. Our first customer today is one that I've had the privilege of working very closely with for the past 3 years. Performance Contracting, or PCI for short, is a leading drywall, framing, and exteriors contractor in the United States, and in my humble opinion, one of the most innovative trade companies operating in the United States. I'm going to pass things over to Alex Brown, Senior Account Executive with OpenSpace, Ryan Chris, Product Manager with PCI, and Austin Johansson, Senior Project Engineer with PCI. Alex, I'll send it over to you.
All right, thank you, Wesley. And really excited to facilitate this discussion today with a group that Wesley and I have actually been both working with pretty closely over the past several years. So today I'm excited to introduce Austin Johansson and Ryan Chris from Performance Contracting, or PCI for short. And just a little background on PCI before I let them introduce themselves. So PCI is one of the nation's leading specialty contractors. They provide a wide range of services from drywall, framing, and insulation to exteriors, glazing, and curtain wall. They are an employee-owned company and have over 40 regional offices across the US. And they're currently working on hundreds of active projects in the industrial, commercial, and public sectors. As I mentioned, Wesley and I have been working with PCI since 2021. They're one of our top users in terms of active usage of the product. Just to share some statistics with you all. So they're currently using us on over 350 projects. They've taken over 24,000 captures between those projects and have over 550 active users. So pretty healthy engagement. And today I'm excited for Ryan and Austin to share a little bit more about their stories and their involvement with OpenSpace. So with that, we'll get into some introductions. Ryan, we'll get started with you.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Ryan, Chris, nice to be on the call. Appreciate OpenSpace and letting us to kind of jump up here and talk about performance contracting, our experience. My name's Ryan, Innovation Manager here at Performance Contracting Group. Have been with the company for about 17 years now. Started my career as a project engineer and did that for about 5 to 6 years, and then transitioned into the IT innovation software space. So I've been doing that for about the past 12 years. Really focusing on implementation of software, rolling out software from East Coast to West Coast, and really looking at, hey, what's coming down the pipeline as it relates to construction and construction technology, and making sure we're part of the conversation so we're not caught on our heels when a new fancy solution like OpenSpace comes up and starts getting traction. So
awesome. Thanks, Ryan. And Austin?
Yeah, I mean, good to see you both. First of all, Alex, hope you're doing well. Ryan, good to see you. I'm Austin Johansson, Senior Project Engineer working out of the Bay Area currently. I'm primarily on our drywall and framing side, a little bit of exteriors. Have got a good array of different style projects. I'm assuming you're going to bring up one of my favorite ones today. So been doing a lot in healthcare the last couple of years. Been a PCI for 3 years and enjoying every minute of that, and being able to use new tools like OpenSpace and being able to integrate that into day-to-day operations has been really cool. So excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Austin. So Ryan, let's get started with you. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we've been working with PCI for about 3 to 4 years now. Back in 2021 is when we originally got engaged with you all. Why don't you share the story of our initial engagement together and how you all got started with OpenSpace?
Yeah, like you said, it started back in 2021. We've been using one of your competitor solution for several years prior to that. And one of the things that was brought to our innovation group was a challenge around the processing speed and 360-degree photos and the reliability of that solution in totality. That really spurred a conversation amongst our innovation group to start looking at what solutions were out there that we could potentially pilot and implement. And that led us down the track of a conversation with OpenSpace. So we did a pretty pointed pilot on a handful of solutions to determine if your guys' solution stacked up against your competitors. And really what we found is some of the pitfalls that we had with our last solution were solved by your solution. And a lot of that dealt with processing time, the amount of hands that were in the scenes, behind the scenes that maybe had to do manual tweaks here and there. We just didn't see that with OpenSpace. So one of the deciding factors for us was really your reliability of the solution, your willingness to take some feedback from customers like ourselves and put them in the solution, and that turnaround time. So once we get that job site walked, having that data on our computer and accessible to the project team is really important. So making sure we had a really tight time frame and we were able to get to that level of detail we needed with OpenSpace. So we decided outside of the pilot, once that was complete, that OpenSpace was a good fit for our company and really started that journey of what does it look like to roll this out, across the United States and to really take this solution and throw it on as many projects as we could, because the value was definitely there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate you sharing that story of really being able to put us to the test on that proof of concept. And so let's fast forward to today, right? We're in 2024 now. As I mentioned before, we've been working with you guys for 3 years, and we went from that initial proof of concept all the way up to over 350 projects that are actively using the solution. I know you've been leading the charge from a corporate perspective on that implementation. Share a little bit of that journey of how you got that initial pilot test to where we are today.
Yeah, it really was just a crawl, walk, run method. And really, you guys were a fairly new company back in 2021, and we were just new to the space. So I think we had a lot to learn from each other from a process perspective. But we really wanted to start out small, and we started out with a comfortable size of revenue to push through the solution. And the combination between us with onboarding and you guys with training in that aspect went really well. So Wesley was a great partner in that engagement, and it really made that transition from, hey, I got a job that I want to use OpenSpace on, to actually using OpenSpace was really small. So we did some unique stuff there between OpenSpace and PCI to do pre-recorded training sessions, just to make sure that the project teams had all the information they need to be successful. If you've been in the business of implementing software as long as I have, you've had some nightmare stories to run through. And in all transparency, OpenSpace wasn't that, thankfully. And that's part of the reason why some of those numbers that you shared at the beginning are so high, is because the ability for us to get OpenSpace on a project quickly and efficiently and get people trained up on it, that's a relatively low effort. And I think that has a lot to do with the overall success we've had. And really, we have had a true grassroots growth of this solution. And you don't really see that quick a growth in a lot of software solutions. And that really justifies the value add of OpenSpace and really the ease of use, which I'm sure Austin's going to talk about a little bit. So some of those pieces have made my job really easy, to be completely transparent, because if the solution's good and it's easy to understand and it's easy to execute upon and it provides value, the rest kind of takes care of itself. And this is a prime example of that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Austin, let's turn things over to you. So I know you're more boots on the ground, working on some healthcare projects, like you mentioned, out in the Bay Area. So tell us a little bit about your first initial impression when OpenSpace was introduced to you, and what you were doing previously to document and how.
Yeah, so there's other softwares that Ryan was talking about that we've used in the past, and I think one of the things that was really cool about introducing OpenSpace to us as an operations team was it's extremely intuitive. So other other options are a little bit scattered in how you track. It's I would say a full-on process for trying to get recordings of certain spaces, and you don't always get the clear imagery. And I think one of the cool things about OpenSpace is that when you start walking, it's like somebody's day one could be doing this and documenting in the field. So you're able to navigate, almost a 1 foot, 2 feet at a time to get the perfect angles. And in drywall and metal stud framing, it's sometimes having those different angles actually play a really big role in what you're looking at when you're not necessarily in the field. So being able to very quickly integrate into the project, OpenSpace as a tool was more helpful than I think I realized at the time. And I mean, I'm sure we'll continue talking about it, but it's been extremely helpful basically every day for us since it was introduced a couple of years ago to me.
Yeah, and I know that, Austin, you had a pretty unique story and challenge of what happened to you on this project. So would you mind sharing a little bit about your experience with that?
Yeah, unique is a funny way of putting it. I had a pretty significant knee injury that sidelined me from being able to walk on a project for 6 months, maybe even a little bit longer than that. So when I went down, obviously projects don't stop, right? And I wanted to be as involved as I possibly could. And so what that looked like is my team was able to take over doing the captures regularly. It kept me involved in going through the RFI processes, making sure that document control was being taken care of from a field perspective, and really feeling like I was still active when I wasn't able to be on site. And that was, I mean, really was a great tool to make me feel like I was still a part of that project, even when I physically couldn't be there. So I think that was probably one of the single greatest tools that I had in the time that I was away, to make me still feel connected to the people that I was working with in the field, and feel like I still have the same impact, maybe not necessarily just being in the field and being able to walk the conditions, but being able to talk about them specifically by just looking at the footage.
Yeah, that's powerful. And hopefully that doesn't happen again on your next job. So I do want to talk about, outside of outside of the, atypical use case with something like your knee breaking, what are some of the more typical ways your teams are now using OpenSpace, especially considering this job is close to wrapping?
Yeah, I think that something that we do now, and OpenSpace has kind of turned into part of our job startup process. So you'll hear it often in our office, and a lot of our managers are saying, when did you get your first capture? Have you been out on site yet? When we're talking about things in the office and planning, let's not just talk about plans in 2D. Let's pull up the OpenSpace and see what we actually have going on out there. What are the current conditions? Actually talking to something that is real, right? So and it looks like you're about to share your screen, so maybe we can talk through some of these conditions. This is a great example of, we're wrapping up this healthcare facility, and being able to go through and talk to the foreman about finished spaces, and doing this side-by-side comparison of this is how things were built. Or for us, backing might be a big thing, to make sure that we've captured everything that needs to be on the wall before you see the finish here on the left. So being able to validate that by capturing early, capturing often, has been just an unbelievable tool for us, just planning inside of the office. And then also field notes, field note reports, being able to walk this, and whoever it is that's walking it, quickly putting a note to something, and triggering your mind, like, I need to come back to that when you open it up the next day, and then printing out those reports, isolating information, getting that to the field team, so that you're all talking about the same thing. Or really, we've seen this help a lot with our clients and architects. And we have these calls all the time where we talk about design and coordination, but you're not always talking about the exact same thing. So a lot of times we'll take snips directly from OpenSpace, share that on one screen, and then have the OpenSpace capture on the other, and we can quickly drop a detail that we think might work for the end user space. So I think there's so much value in different ways of using this, even outside of maybe what OpenSpace is built for, that we've been able to integrate into our operations team daily.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Austin. Ryan, to hop things back over to you, and also to kind of wrap up this discussion as well. I'm sure there's a lot of people watching today that are in similar positions to you, trying to figure out, how do I sell this internally? What's the best way to communicate this usage and value to the executives? What would be advice that you would give to someone in your similar boots at another company for how to implement a tool like this?
Yeah, I would. A couple things there is, one, be passionate about the problem you're trying to solve, right? So for us, OpenSpace solves a lot of problems from the pre-con phase to the documentation side, and really using OpenSpace for that additional layer of checks and balances, so you can go back and look at information opposed to searching through piles and piles of photos. So for us, it's really, hey, you start small and you prove that value, and you prove that it's going to solve the problems that you're looking for. A quick little story on the software costs and those sort of things. The spend for OpenSpace isn't an astronomical number, but one of the first sessions we had with some of our general foremen talking about OpenSpace, there was a gentleman who essentially said OpenSpace saved him X amount of money on a claim because we had that proper documentation. That amount of money was the same value it was for a first-year contract with OpenSpace. So right out of the gate, we had one claim that paid for itself, or paid for the solution just on one situation. I'm sure there's 100 additional stories just like that we aren't aware of, but it's really making sure that you have the checks and balances in place, and you're really proving that this solution does provide value, and that the return on investment is a positive value. It's not just an additional tool to put in a toolkit and maybe use it, maybe you don't. So for the contractors that do things right and hold themselves to a high level of quality standards and execution, it's worth its weight in gold, because you have that documentation, you have that proof that yes, we did it right. And we don't always do it right, and we're the first to admit when we don't do it right, and we'll turn around and fix it. But without some of the value add that OpenSpace provides and the documentation, it can make that conversation a little more complex. And what we found is using this tool to have a educated conversation on real live site conditions at the time they occurred has been invaluable for us as a contractor on all scales of projects, small ones and significantly large ones. So that's where I would start, is just talking about the problem statement, ensuring the solution solves those problems, and really taking a look at your ROI and thinking about how you can improve that ROI by using this solution, would be my words of advice.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, Ryan. And Austin, from your perspective as someone out in the field, what words of advice would you give someone in your shoes when you get a new tool, whether it's OpenSpace or just any sort of new process to implement, of the best way to handle that from a cultural change perspective?
Yeah, I think I said it earlier, but something that I say all the time is capture early, capture often, right? So the more you're able to do that on site, the more you're able to hopefully correct conditions like Ryan's talking about. And even to kind of piggyback off of that a little bit, it's, a lot of times in construction and operations, you might be having a not necessarily heated conversation, but there's an argument brewing, right? And you're not even talking about the same thing. So I think what OpenSpace allows is to very quickly just, isolate what the facts are and then come to a solution, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. So you don't want to stay down, arguing about something. I can just pull it up. We can have the conversation. If it's something, that we need to fix, like, let's take care of it. If there's something else we need to come up with a solution for, that's what OpenSpace allows us to do, is to kind of cut through a lot of those potential negative conversations and just start isolating solutions. So, yeah, I mean, it's been such a great tool for us. I can't explain enough.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate both of your guys' time, and again, we've loved working with you guys the past few years. You've been really helpful with us, just driving us forward in terms of innovation. Both of you sharing your perspective on this, and if anyone watching wants to continue the conversation and reach out to Ryan or Austin and ask them direct questions about their experience, please reach out to us. We're happy to connect you all. But with that, Wesley, I'll hand things off to you. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Alex.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Alex, Ryan, and Austin. That was some great insight on how to approach effectively implementing technology at scale. And we'd love to hear how seamlessly OpenSpace fit into your enterprise solutions. Austin, I hope you can get just as much value out of OpenSpace on your next project without having to go through the whole breaking your knees part. We're going to keep things moving and hear from KEO. KEO is a global creative enterprise of planning, design, engineering, and project management professionals that are managing large, complex projects all around the globe. We're going to be hearing from them on how they use OpenSpace to effectively solve job site problems and accelerate job site schedules. We're going to hear from Tom Herbert, a senior solutions engineer at OpenSpace, or Herbie, as we affectionately call him here at our company. Simon Joss, project director with KEO, and Jason Morris, managing director at KEO. Herbie, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Wes. I'm Tom Herbert. I'm a solution consultant here at OpenSpace. It'd be great to get introductions from you both. Simon, if you want to start.
Sure, yes. Thanks very much, Herbie. My name is Simon Joss. I'm the project director for KEO across the Samhan district in Riyadh.
Thank you very much. And Jason?
So, my name is Jason Morris. I'm the managing director for KEO's project management, construction management international business, based out of Dubai, but serving the whole region.
Great stuff. Thank you very much. I suppose to kick things off, we'd love an introduction about KEO and your roles within the company.
Great, thanks. So, as I said, I'm the managing director for our project management and construction management division, but we are a multidisciplinary engineering advisory and project management business, headquartered out of Kuwait 60 years ago, but now spread through the entire region, and currently moving into a number of international markets, including Asia, Europe, and Africa. We have approximately 10 permanent offices spread again across those geographic regions. Continue looking to expand, and as I say, delivering in my instance project management, program management, construction management, supervision services to a wide range of clients in the region.
Great. So it sounds like a good mix. Thanks very much. So, I suppose, what were some of the specific challenges you faced before implementing OpenSpace? What were kind of some of the things that led you to look for a platform like this?
I think that, like every provider, service provider, solutions provider, probably globally at the moment, I was going to say in the region, as in the GCC, but I think globally, we're all looking at resource and talent challenges at the moment. So we've been on a wider digital journey within the PMCM division here at KEO. And one of the things that we really wanted to be focused on as we go through that journey is how do we get more for less, for want of a better way of describing it. But how do we get more efficiencies out of our teams on site? And really that's around creating time for them. It became very apparent that whilst teams are challenged in terms of the tasks that they need to perform, they were working longer and longer hours. That leads to performance issues as well as well-being issues, both of which were a big factor in us looking to find solutions whereby we're creating time for our people, and we wanted to make sure that they were working smarter, not harder, and providing, again, time in the days to actually think, so they could actually deliver their services with the professionalism that we know that they bring to the table, but also, and just as importantly, able to leave at a reasonable hour in the afternoon and get home to the families and spend quality time away from the project life as well.
No, that sounds great. And that's one of the things I know you work with myself and Sam. It's one of the things we always say is we're always looking for ways for people to be able to get back home to their families sooner, quicker, easier. So what led you to choose OpenSpace? And I suppose, how did that compare to other systems that you considered?
Simon introduced me to OpenSpace. So probably a great segue into Simon to describe how that journey really took place. Simon?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Quite simply, I was brought into the project midway through in June of 2023, and it was a sizable project to get to grips with, which we needed to very quickly. It's in excess of 75,000 square meters and over 1,700 men on site. So I used it as an opportunity because I'd been working with OpenSpace in my previous life already, and I'd found it, a bit of a game changer, to be honest. It just allowed, from my perspective, it allowed me to revisit the site without revisiting the site. So 75,000 square meters took me in the region of about a day and a half to capture. It was June in the Middle East, so the heat did take its toll from time to time. And then it allowed me to start to investigate the project and get familiar and be aware of it very, very quickly. This was pretty much the first capture that we commenced with. Now, it doesn't look like much when you see it like this. There's a number of this precast elements that were challenging. The area behind me was the very, very simple area of Zone 3 and Zone 5. And Zone 2 is over at the back here, where you can see the ramp that I alluded to earlier. So anything that was linear was proving to be, fairly simple. But as soon as the contractor entered into Zone 4, which is attached to Zone 1 over at the back, the typical elements were not so typical any longer. But it's amazing, the transformation, which I love seeing the transformation between the 4 months or 5 months even into November, which is kind of mind-blowing. Looking at the fact that there was a gap and there are 3 large cranes, and then it takes you to exactly the same location into Zone 4 and Zone 1. So this is Zone 4 leading into Zone 1, which is the elevator lobby. And in the space of 5 months, I just think it's a phenomenal transformation that we've managed to go from pretty much nothing and complications within the precast to a fully operational, full epoxy, cleaned down. This was the handover mode that we went into with the client to show how clean the site was for the benefit of the contractor. And I think one of the biggest problems we've got maybe I'm not sure if it's the Middle East, but I'll refer to the Middle East as that's our region, is the contractors may see this as a negative. And I tried really hard with the construction management supervision and the contractor, who really took it on board with the snagging and the QA/QC, to see this as a positive, because this was their evidence that each floor, while it didn't exactly give them a contractual handover, it was evidence that no one was allowed to touch this floor on a specific date. So we had a record that on November the 26th, basement 3 was ready for handover. But yeah, it was an amazing way to look at the project from where I'd started in the July to where we'd actually ended up in the November. And towards the end of that, when it came to the handover, there was many benefits from design collaboration, stakeholder collaboration within internal meetings. Rather than referring to the drawings, we were referring to visual impacts and real-time captures. We had a scenario where we were actually taking the ramp away from one of the zones, and we didn't know how that was going to come to fruition. So within one of the conversations in front of the client, I brought up the capture, and we then started to follow it over the preceding sort of 2 or 3 weeks, and they could see how that removal of the ramp and the earthworks and the stockpile had taken place. And then, of course, when it came into sort of as-built and red line drawings, we then again adapted OpenSpace to allow a remote design team to tap into the project. We used it for handover of the floors, so we had evidentiary documentation for the contractor, and it was signed off by the client. And then we moved into the facilities management handover as well. So every step of the way, we had maybe 7 or 8 different uses for OpenSpace. And midway through that journey, I took an opportunity to introduce it to Jason and James, our operations director, and that's where OpenSpace became involved and started to take those overall demonstrations forward with the senior management.
Thank you very much. This next question makes me smile because Simon, you and I have spoken a lot, and sometimes I think we speak to each other more than our own wives. But it's around the initial implementations. Obviously, you've spoke about how we did on that initial pilot project, and as we all know, doing it on a single project is obviously a lot easier than rolling out across all of your projects. However, you have now got this implemented on a lot of your projects. So the question is, how has that initial implementation process of OpenSpace gone, and were there any big hurdles you needed to overcome?
I don't think there was necessarily big hurdles to open up. I myself, and I think the company are very. We can pivot. We're the size of company in which we can pivot very, very quickly. And what we did when we had the conversation and after the demonstrations were done is within the space of 3 to 4 months, OpenSpace was ready to deploy. We had the hardware, and immediately with our digital services team, we generated and established a OpenSpace committee. And one of my philosophies is go slow to go fast, because eventually the momentum will gather. And we'd already done a huge amount of work behind the scenes on this pilot, which made that implementation through the company a lot quicker. It's been a relatively quick implementation and a very worthwhile implementation that, from the feedback that I've received as the sponsor within KSA, everyone has started, or a lot of people, have started to reach out saying, can we have OpenSpace? It's early days. We're in the first year of that implementation, but I think we're moving at a very, very strong and quick enough pace that we're beginning to see the results at this early stage.
No, that's great. And I suppose of those projects then that we have now got implemented, what are some of the most significant improvements you've seen on those projects? So if it could be one, it could be across a few of them. What's the biggest improvements you've seen since we put those in place?
Within the case study project, we implemented it to the construction management and supervision team to benefit them and ultimately benefit ourselves. You look at another project in the same district, such as site-wide logistics, that's being implemented as we speak in order to give a very visual representation on a bi-weekly basis of the overall site conditions, the road conditions, the hoarding conditions, that prevents the client having to do that themselves. And you then look at banking projects such as the commercial projects that we have in Riyadh. They span over 40 floors, but not every floor is running, is being constructed at the same time. So we're implementing phases. And again, because it's such a vast project, we're offering that visibility to the client. So the client can do comparisons from floor to floor on a week-to-week basis. They can see either from an ad hoc perspective, or we can implement it into a reporting perspective week on week, what that before and afters have been. So that just gives you some, that's just 2 or 3 examples of the reporting aspect and the visual aspect. One of the biggest successes that we had on the case study, which was the Samhan car park, was the snagging and handover. We had over 8,000 QA/QC, including snagging, that needed to be closed out within the space of approximately 6 weeks. And thankfully, I'm glad to say that we achieved that. And one of the ways that we were able to achieve that was a coordinated zonal effort, where you have zones, you have floors, and you have discipline. So we were able to take a handover team and download the relevant reports based on the zones, based on the floors, and based on the disciplines that allowed the contractor and allowed the construction management team to attack those QA/QC records in a specific manner. And they moved from each of the zones, and they moved from each of the floors. And we were able to create a 6-week window with a programmed effort, and it meant that there wasn't a sporadic attack on those 8,000 QA/QC records. So it creates a huge amount of efficiency within such a large 75,000 square meter project.
Fantastic. So I suppose if I flip that over, were there any unexpected benefits or surprising results from using OpenSpace? Was there anything that kind of caught you off guard in a good way?
Probably. I think the snagging was probably the first one, because that wasn't the original intention. The intention, as I said, was to familiarize. It was to showcase and advocate the visibility inside the client offices on how the project was being handled. It was originally attempting to reduce the time spent on our 16 folders of weekly reports, in which we could expedite the photo report. So the photo report originally was taking at least 2 construction managers a full day to walk the site, to take the photographs in a traditional manner on phones or tablets, to then retreat to the site office and spend another half a day, if not more, preparing that report on a typical PowerPoint presentation, to then issue that to the client for their comments. Instead, it was taking in the region of 4 hours for 2 construction managers to fully walk the site, 3 floors each, and the report maybe took an extra couple of hours to tidy up. So we were saving, about 8 to 10 man hours just on the progress report itself. And of course, one of the best tools is the reveal mode, where the asset management and facilities management in particular are able to walk across the site itself, and they can look above the ceilings. If they see a leak within a ceiling, but they're not quite sure where that leak has come from, purely by going back through the data captures that occurred 2 years ago, they can instantly identify, without going into as-builts or any other documentation, whether it's a condensate tray, whether it's a sprinkler pipe or anything else that may have caused that leak. They can at least see enough information to make an initial observation without doing intrusive or obtrusive surveys to the operations of the asset. So that's one of the key things that I really like about OpenSpace that we identified.
Image, it usually always comes back to images. This is what I hear from most of our customers. We've kind of turned that process around, rather than, as you say, starting with a piece of paper or a document and then attaching a picture for reference. If we start with that image, everything becomes much clearer. And we hear that a lot. How do you envisage OpenSpace supporting companies' long-term goals and future projects? Jason, maybe this is a question for you. Where do you see this going in the future?
I think it's a great question, and I'd like to say I know the answer. I know where we're seeing some of the thinking going at the moment. I think there's a lot of imagination needs to go around exactly where a tool like reality capture can go. Anything like this that we're introducing into our business, I always like to look at it through sort of 3 clear prisms. So clients, people, and excellence. So almost all my decision making goes through those 3 prisms. And I think about our clients. It's allowing our clients to gain access to information that previously they've never known they could have access to. It allows them to make decisions in a way that they've never made decisions before, certainly in a timely manner that they've never been able to do before. So I think that there's a huge amount there around how a tool like OpenSpace is sort of hardwired into the communication plans in how projects and programs are delivered, or something similar to OpenSpace, right? Because I've been involved in doing this for a long time. Projects fail because decisions don't get made. People talk about communications and all the rest of it, and yes, poor communications always fits into that. But projects fail because decisions aren't made, and that's why they go late. That's why they go over budget. And then into excellence. I think Simon's talked a lot about the excellence that it's bringing to the accuracy of data. You're taking away the human memory side. I think a lot of people who attend a meeting, everybody's been at the same place at the same time, has a slightly different memory about what they saw. And having I know that one of the key comments that Sam made to me the first time Sam talked to me about OpenSpace was it was a time capsule, a time machine. And I think that's such an accurate description of the potential of OpenSpace. You go back to any point in time and you go back to reality as captured reality. And I think that really understanding how that applies not just to projects, but to programs and portfolios, how that really does work through the gateways of design development through into facilities management and all the way through to the disposal or repurposing of an asset. There's so much to explore in what this technology can do. Sam keeps talking to me about what's next for OpenSpace, and I have to keep redirecting him to our digital teams because often what he's talking to me about is a little bit, I'm going to say, way above my pay grade, but I'm not quite sure I'm supposed to admit that. But yeah, look, for me, it's a demonstration of what people like Simon do with this tool on site. Some sort of makes an OpenSpace himself make the promise about what this tool can do. It's then watching people like Simon and the other project directors and teams that are now implementing this for KO across our sites is the real demonstrator of truth. But then the conversation we're having with different client types shows that level of imagination that is now possible in expanding the use of this tool across, as I said, programs and portfolios of work. So to me, this is really, I think the whole digital journey that everybody's on is so exciting for us. As an industry, we've lagged behind it for so long. So many stats about the low productivity in our industry, and this type of tool is absolutely key to transforming how we deliver assets on behalf of our clients, and we owe it to those clients to be doing just that.
Fantastic. Listen, guys, thank you so much for your time. This has been really, really good. Thank you very much, and we'll speak to you soon.
Sure. Thanks, Herbie.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Jason, Simon, and Herbie. I love hearing from our global customers. It's refreshing to know that no matter where you are or what you're building, the challenges we face in construction are all the same, and the technology that we're working on here can help address these problems on a global scale. For our last customer panel of the day, we're going to be hearing from a GC that is being innovative and leading the way in technology. Consigli is a Boston-based GC, and they're going to be speaking not only on how OpenSpace is providing direct value to their job sites, but also about how they've been able to take OpenSpace and plug it into the rest of their enterprise to make it a part of their enterprise workflows, specifically getting a lot of value out of the OpenSpace Revisto integration we launched earlier this year with OpenSpace BIM+. We're going to be hearing from my boss, Adam Satino, Director of Solutions Engineering at OpenSpace, Alex Carr, Senior Project Manager with Consigli, and Alicia Martino, Senior VDC Manager with Consigli. Adam, I'll pass it over to you.
We good to go? Great. Thanks, Wesley, and hello, everyone. I'm Adam Satino, Director of Solution Engineers. First, I would like to thank Joe Kelly and the Mass Construction Show for allowing us to do this live and in person together. It's great if you haven't checked out the show before. They cover topics from insurance, safety, technology, and have all types of people on the show, PMs, superintendents, executives. Actually, just last Friday, Matt Consigli was on the show, and that will be released soon if you want to check that out. And I am honored to be joined here with two people from Consigli, Alicia Martino and Alex Carr. And I'll give you guys a second to introduce yourselves.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Adam, for having us. I'm Alicia Martino, Senior VDC Manager with Consigli. At the company, my role and responsibility is really to help our teams use technology and VDC services across all regions.
Yeah, thanks, Adam, for having us. My name is Alex Carr. I'm a Senior PM out of our Boston office. I've been working in Boston on mostly healthcare, higher ed projects for the past 9 years and using OpenSpace for about the last 5.
Great. Well, thank you for joining me. Before we get started, you want to talk a little bit about Consigli as a company?
Yeah, absolutely. So Consigli is a fifth-generation family-led company headquartered in Milford, Massachusetts, with offices up and down the East Coast from Maine down to North Carolina. We also have offices in the U.S. Virgin Islands. We're an employee-owned company. 73% of our work is repeat work from clients that we do continuous business with, which is great for our mentality of creating raving fans. And then we're also about a $3 billion annual revenue.
Great. Well, I was on the customer side. We used to compete a lot. It's nice to be a partner now.
Yes.
Makes it a little easier.
Yes.
So Consigli is a very tech-forward company. You guys are using a lot of things in the field, laser scanning, obviously OpenSpace, drones, Revisto. So I'd be curious to hear a little bit about Consigli's philosophy when looking at technology and what criteria you use and the evaluation process of how you decide what software you're going to roll out.
Yeah, so I mean, like with technology growing and changing in the construction industry and influencing it, there's a lot out there. So when we look at technology, we really look at what adds value to the way we do our work. Does it help us build more efficiently? Does it provide our teams with technology that's easily deployable? So yes, cost is important, but how it gets used and how many problems or things that application could tackle is really helpful. So with OpenSpace, it seems to be a natural fit at Consigli.
Yeah, and easily deployable, as you just said, I think is when it translates to the field side, I think that's huge for us. Like we have such a great VDC team, and as we continue to tackle more complex, fast-paced projects, it's important that it's a tool that's intuitive, which I believe OpenSpace really is to be intuitive and can be used every day and can be rolled out to the field. And then as we'll talk about, I see the value of it even from my field staff using it in the field every day. So when you talk about user friendly, like from my side of the ball, that is a really important aspect. And I think that's something that OpenSpace provides us.
Yeah, and that's been evident. With a little bit of help from Adam and his team, we're able to train our project teams and roll out the use of OpenSpace. And we're even seeing project superintendents, project managers find ways to use it that as VDC we didn't necessarily think of. Yeah. So when you talk about people adopting it, it's really become a natural occurrence and it's happened organically.
That's great. And how else is like OpenSpace fit that need, fits your criteria, and fits within that philosophy of how you actually use technology?
So when we talk about technology, we also look at integrations. So it plays well with other technologies that we use, such as Revisto, with being able to integrate. And we'll talk about that and how we use some of the BIM Plus tools. But talking about how it gets adapted organically, we go into our projects remotely. VDC team members are not often on site. So we're able to go in and take a look at our projects, but we're often going in and looking at our projects and seeing, for instance, a superintendent using it to make deficiency items for a contractor. So, it's not just going, taking a photo and putting it on Procore as a deficiency. It's giving them a comprehensive report of what the issue is, where it occurs, the date of which it occurred, and something that's really manageable to track and just drive home, so we have an easier process on both sides, for us, for them, for the owner.
Yeah, the field notes, as you're talking, like to me, that's something that we are, we've probably all seen the shift. Accelerated schedules are now just the norm.
Schedules that's are just getting longer. Yeah. They're not getting shorter.
Efficiencies and timing of responses are just becoming that much more important to us. So using those field notes to sort of drive that response, and even using OpenSpace to create sort of more robust RFIs that are, they're more delivering a solution along with the problem so that we can get answers faster and move the work along, is key, and something that the field notes have been huge for us. Our superintendent has been using the field notes quite a bit, and we review them in our team meetings with Alicia every week. So yeah, to me that is efficiencies of having open spaces, us getting responses quicker.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information flowing back and forth now. We can send information
so
really
much,
quickly.
Right, yeah.
But when you can actually give the context and have people understand it faster, you're going to get those responses quicker.
And I mean, even if you're talking about real-time responses, to be able to have, whether it's a superintendent, an MEP coordinator, or assistant super in the field, talking to the architect in New York and saying, hey, can you pull up OpenSpace and look at the third floor kitchen? I want to look at an overhang with you. Like that's as fast as we can get information back, right? So I remember the days when I was in the field, with an iPad sort of documenting that stuff, and that this just wasn't a reality. But it is now, and as we continue to sort of adopt this mentality of getting some real-time responses, that's how we are able to tackle the more fast-paced schedules.
And the project that Alex is talking about, it's a mass timber project for Harvard University, complex in its own right. Signature architects, It's mass timber, so everything is really treated with care. The aesthetics of the building, what it's going to look like at the end of the day, is really important too. So just being able for the architect to see virtually what's going on is important to him to make sure his vision is executed correctly.
Right. Architect, owner, every
Anybody.
member of the design team. We're sort of spread out around the country, and that's okay. We're able to pull up OpenSpace during the 4-week look ahead in our owners meetings and sort of walk through the building. I would say more often than not that prompts some sort of question, which without that we would be behind on that question already, right? Like we want to bring those things to light for people who aren't necessarily there every day, and that's just a reality in this industry that since COVID, I think we've seen that, right? There's a shift for a little bit of a less of an on-site presence from the design teams and the ownership teams, whether we like it or not. So adapting to that with tools like OpenSpace, is kind of critical for us to sort of stay on the leading front of things and tackle these complex projects.
Yeah, I remember sitting around those OAC meetings before OpenSpace was around, and you waste 20 minutes talking about this is the condition. No, this is a condition.
Yeah, right. There's a way
somebody's got to walk out there and take a photo and come back and send in the email, and now it's like, let's just bring it up on the screen.
Right, exactly.
And unknowingly capturing with OpenSpace, you're likely capturing something you need or will need that you don't even know you're going to capture as you walk through the site.
Right. Which is when we first started doing the OpenSpace walks to go with our 4 weeks sort of out of necessity during COVID on the last project that I used this on. And now it's just a norm, and really like we are constantly trying to improve our owners meetings, and I would be hard pressed to find a better improvement than that, to have the visual up alongside while our superintendent is sort of walking through what's going on. Like, it's invaluable to me.
That's great. Are there any other ways you're planning to use it on the project that you guys are working on now?
So the mass timber project we're working on now, I think one of the key things, we spent 9 months at the beginning of this project coordinating all penetrations through the CLT deck and the mass timber beams, which is, you have the benefit of being able to do that ahead of time and have them shop fabricated with mass timber. So what we're doing now is we're making sure that those efforts are realized in the field, and we're using OpenSpace and the BIM Plus tool as sort of a QC in the field to first make sure that those penetrations are in the right place when each sequence is erected, and then B, making sure that they are being used appropriately by the correct subs with the right routing, and that the efforts that Alicia and her team spent 9 months plus on are sort of not falling on deaf ears in the field, and because there's layers to it, right? But there's a reason why we have shop penetrations.
Yeah,
right.
This project in particular, if somebody goes their own way, it's very easy to mess everybody else up, and it's important. It's helpful to make sure the plan that we spend months behind the scenes planning and coordinating is executed correctly. Not only for the sake, we did a good job. Hey, it all worked, but looking at the value and the return of coordination as well. It's like planning ahead helps us meet those schedules and meet those condensed times.
Yeah, and it was always frustrating before with you go through that long process and then the model just lives somewhere and nobody references it.
Yes.
So like who in the field is doing that and reviewing it?
Yeah, so for us, like as I talked about the adopting, we've really been able to get our team on board with OpenSpace. So it would be either our assistant super, or our MEP coordinator when he's on site. And like Alicia was saying, there was so much work that went into this MEP coordination process. Like it needs to be constantly QC'd in the field, specifically for this project, but really for all of our OpenSpace projects. And they're able to pull up the model and look at what is going on in a certain area of the building on their iPad in the field, and they, we've been using the field notes tool quite a bit, and we've been picking up on those things and any deviations that, would require us to make field penetrations, which we don't want to do, and risk this. It's an exposed. The structure is the finished condition at the end of the day. So, I really think it's been a great tool for us specifically. On this mass timber project,
Okay. And that's a good transition. Like you guys are very BIM heavy.
We are.
How is use Revisto? How is OpenSpace and the BIM Plus features kind of fitting within that workflow?
So directly in OpenSpace, we could upload the model, and we could have that be a reference for those in the field right in OpenSpace directly, side-by-side comparison, using tools such as Model Overlay. and having, again, deploying technology to everybody. We add our trades to OpenSpace, we add our trades to Revisto. So as we capture and as we find things that we need to discuss, or if we just need an extra eye on something to make sure it goes right, we could take through the Revisto integration, create a field note in OpenSpace and translate that to Revisto, where we coordinate our project, where we track all issues. And during construction, we use Revisto as a primary model viewer. OpenSpace would be certainly used as well, but we have our trades in there, the foreman actually installing the work, referencing it to make sure if anything goes aside, we could get them the photographic capture to say, here's the condition, here's what needs to happen. Or even better, if our coordinators or myself were remote from the site, we could go in and we could see what's happening to help resolve the issue. So maybe something got installed because it just didn't work, and that's what the result is of the install. But we need to, talk about it, figure out how to fix it, and we could do that virtually.
Cool. You also mentioned a while ago when we were talking with the previous presentation we've been prepping for one you have right now in pre-construction, and you walk the site.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we're constantly looking how to use our technology that we have in other ways. So using one solution to solve several problems is a benefit. So in pre-construction, we're using OpenSpace with the Revisto plugin to track a feasibility study or document existing conditions. So when we go to our job sites, and maybe it's a academic building that we don't have access to during the school year, we could go in, we could capture it, we could have that virtual environment that we could review as we plan the project, as we coordinate with architects and engineers to give them feedback on constructability. So it really goes a long way in being able to take what we're capturing in OpenSpace, bring it into Revisto, and have that single yet dual environment.
That's awesome. We're almost at time here, but is there any other stories you want to share or examples?
I mean, I would say when, Alicia was talking about value add, and when we review technologies, what's their value add to us? And I think where OpenSpace, in my personal experience, has basically been, worth its weight in gold is the closeout process. So obviously, everything that we just talked about is like a day-to-day. We are using it every day. We're using for our owners meeting. But when you get to the closeout process, we put we really care about creating raving fans. As you've seen it, 73% of our work is repeat clients. That's a huge part of my day-to-day is building those relationships. You can have the best job in the world, and an extended closeout can just leave a bad taste in an owner's mouth, right? So the closeout process, we are continuously trying to improve. Having the OpenSpace captures has personally allowed me to more efficiently close out a job. One of my last projects, I ended up closing out an adjacent project as we had some team turnover. And we were able to really get through the punch list, and we were given a really tight deadline. We were able to get through that with a lot of help from the OpenSpace Capture we have, closing things out that were then covered up by millwork or behind walls or above ceilings that they didn't want disturbed because the building was turned over. So to me, any tool that can allow us to better deliver in the closeout process, which I really think OpenSpace has, in my personal experience, is very valuable. It adds a true value add to us in terms of keeping that relationship with the client. And we've learned closeout is oftentimes where things can go awry. So it's been a super valuable tool for us in that sense.
Yeah, you don't want to be the last impression to be not great impression.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't want to overstay your welcome.
Yeah.
Overstaying your welcome is how people only remember that. They don't remember the project. So, yeah, that's been a great tool for us.
Cool.
Yeah, and then just to add, one of the things we also look for with the software and companies that we work with is just collaboration. And it's been a great working relationship thus far with OpenSpace to help not only figure out and solve problems that we want to solve, but also, the direction of where things are headed, and the future's bright.
Great. Thanks. I really appreciate it. I mean, it's been a lot easier being a partner than a competitor.
Yes,
so.
yes, absolutely.
It's been fun. And I'm looking forward to see how the journey goes. But I think that's about what we have for time. So, again, I want to thank Joe Kelly and the Mass Construction Show for allowing us to do this live and in person. And I'll send it back to you, Wesley. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam, Alicia, and Alex. That was great. There was a bit too much Boston sports memorabilia in the background for my tastes, but the content that y'all showed was awesome. I also want to shout out the podcast, Mass Construction Show, for allowing us to use their studio space today. Make sure to check them out. We're going to go on our next break. It's going to be a brief break, only 5 minutes. But before I let you go, I do want to plug in that OpenSpace is going to be on the road here soon. We're going to be at Autodesk University on October 15th and at the LCI Congress on October 22nd. If you are going to those events, make sure to come out and say hi to our team. Thanks. Welcome back, everyone. Last but not least, we're excited to usher you into the last and final session of today, where we're going to give you a sneak peek under the hood at some of the magic that makes our technology work. So from here, I'm going to pass it over to OpenSpace CTO and co-founder Mike Fleischman, who's going to talk to you about OpenSpace's Spatial AI engine.
Thanks very much, Wes. My name is Michael Fleischman. I'm CTO and co-founder of OpenSpace. And today I will be talking to you about Spatial AI. Spatial AI is the name of the technology that we've developed here at OpenSpace that powers most of our advanced features. And today I'll be talking a little bit about how it works and where it came from, talking about how it intersects two megatrends in the world of artificial intelligence, spatial computing on the one hand, and generative AI on the other. And then I'll be taking you under the hood to show you how Spatial AI powers some of the product features that Neil mentioned earlier today. All right, so I'm sure many of you have noticed the amount of interest in AI recently and how it kind of feels like people are getting more and more interested in AI. And if you're like me, every time you open up your feeds or news, there's some new article about artificial intelligence, whether it's about how impressive the latest technology, the latest models are coming out of the field of AI, or whether it's about how much promise AI has for the future, how much good it can do. But it just seems like everybody's got an opinion about AI these days. And if you feel like it's more now than it ever has been before, well, you're right. In fact, if you look at the use of the term AI over time, you can see that just in the last decade or so, interest in AI has really skyrocketed more than ever before. In fact, before the last decade, interest in AI and kind of use of the term AI in popular media, publications has been pretty steady over time since AI was really coined as a term back in the late 40s and early 50s. Other than a few kind of peaks in interest around AI in the late 60s and late 80s, interest has pretty much been on par. And that kind of peak, generally, those little peaks generally correspond to big pop culture media events that co-occur. So for example, in 1968, the release of the movie 2001, A Space Odyssey, largely considered one of the best movies about artificial intelligence, was released. And there was a little kind of pop in general interest in AI around that. Then again, in 1986, the single best movie about AI, The Terminator, was released, at least in my opinion. And you see another kind of similar peak in interest around that time. But other than that, interest was pretty steady. And that's not because there weren't really important things coming out of the world of AI that were talked about in the media. Even all the way back in 1960, you can see here a picture of a man named Arthur Samuelson, who invented the first machine that could beat a human at the game of checkers. That was then followed a few decades later in 1996, when a machine by IBM called Deep Blue beat Garry Kasparov, the first time a machine beat a grandmaster at the game of chess. And then a little bit later, again, IBM machine, Watson this time, beat humans at the game of Jeopardy, the first time that ever happened, largely considered even more of an event than chess, because Jeopardy is such a wide-ranging array of questions that can be answered there. And so interest in AI has been skyrocketing in the last decade or so. And I want to posit that the reason for that has to do with two megatrends that have been unfolding in the world of AI, and talk about each one and describe where they come from. The first one is called spatial computing. Now, spatial computing is a term that refers to any type of artificial intelligence that kind of has to do with the environment and working in the real world. It's a term that's actually not very new. It was first coined in the early 1980s, really in the context of GIS, geospatial information systems. And this was spatial computing at kind of a global scale. So it had to do with maps, and it had to do with satellites and just kind of large scale spatial computing. Many of you may know spatial computing, though, for its more recent incarnation, when it has to do with virtual reality. So this is an example here, a picture of Apple's Vision Pro headset. And Apple is interesting. They've actually co-opted the term spatial computing. They actually use it specifically to refer to virtual reality. However, spatial computing has a much wider set of things that are incorporated by that. For example, autonomous vehicles. So self-driving cars are an example of spatial computing, as are robots and drones. These are all examples of spatial computing, and really kind of getting a sense of why this is spiking interest in AI, because really what we're seeing over the last decade is a lot of the concepts that were made popular in science fiction movies are actually coming to real life, or at least getting closer to reality these days. So I want to posit and think about why that might be the case. And I think there are a number of reasons why spatial computing has really come into its own in the last decade or so. One, which is well commented on, which just has to do with machines getting much better. So this is a kind of classic example here. On the left, you see an image of the guts of one of the best machines that was invented in the 1940s. It's called the ENIAC machine. And then for comparison, on the right are the guts of one of the best machines that you see today, which is the inside of an iPhone 5. So right off the bat, you can see a comparison there between a machine that takes up a whole room on the left versus one that fits in your pocket on the right. But more than that, that machine that fits in your pocket is hundreds of thousands of times faster than the room-sized machine from the 40s on your left. And not only that, but tens of thousands of times cheaper than that large-scale machine. And so really see machines getting faster. And that has powered a lot of the advances in computers, and specifically for spatial computing in the last decade. But it's not the only thing, because it's not just the inside of these machines, but the sensor technology has also improved radically in the last 10 years. So cameras are getting cheaper and smaller and better all the time. And they're just showing up everywhere. The self-driving car that I showed you in a couple of slides ago, that has over 30 cameras in it, just in that car alone. The Vision Pro, Apple's headset for virtual reality, 12 cameras just in those pair of goggles right there. In fact, this idea of camera ubiquity, the idea that cameras will be everywhere, was one of the trends that Jeev and Philip and I had identified early on, and one of the reasons why we decided to start OpenSpace in the first place. What we thought was that if we could ride this wave of new sensor technology, they're getting smaller and cheaper all the time, we can then combine that with some of the algorithmic advances that were happening in spatial computing for self-driving cars and virtual reality, and apply that to the world of reality capture, specifically for construction. So we started to use technologies like structure from motion and SLAM technology, simultaneous localization and mapping, applying that to videos that you could take with just a small 360 camera on your hard hat, pinning each frame of video to the exact location where the user was when they took it, and then creating these 3D models, these Google Street Views from that video. And our bet was, if cameras got cheaper and easier to come by, and these algorithms continue to improve, we could make a system that was so easy to use, so fast, that customers would just love to capture that data. And the usage statistics that you saw earlier are proving that out. So far today, customers in the last 5 years have captured more than 30 billion square feet of data based on the technologies we've developed around spatial computing, specifically for construction. So that is one mega trend that is part of the spatial AI platform that we've been developing. The next one, which is one that's been in the news even more than spatial AI, is what's called generative AI. Generative AI, or large language models, these are all terms for a suite of AI algorithms that all basically combine to do anything that's generating content is considered generative AI. So whether it's generating text or speech, or whether you're generating images or video, these are all systems that are generating content. They're called generative AI. And really where we've seen them pop up, particularly in the media, is because they're being used to power a new class of AI assistants, also called chatbots or copilots. So ChatGPT is probably the most famous of these chatbots that was released over a year ago, just under 2 years ago, actually, I believe. and represents a huge leap forward in the power of AI assistants and chatbots, well more powerful than anything before because of generative AI. But those aren't the first technologies. The less powered chatbots that you're probably more familiar with even are the ones that are actually on your phone in your pocket right now. So Siri, for example, Alexa, Google Assistant, these are all examples of less powerful chatbots that really have paved the way for what we're seeing with this generative AI revolution with the chat GPTs. But even Siri is not the first chatbot. Many of you may remember one of the earliest chatbots that came out. I don't even know if you would call this artificial intelligence. This is an example called Clippy. This was introduced as part of Microsoft's Office platform in the late 90s and was kind of universally panned, really not very good at its job, and then was retired shortly thereafter. But even Clippy is just one in a kind of long chain in the history of AI assistants and these chatbot and co-pilots. The kind of idea behind AI assistants goes all the way back to the founding of artificial intelligence. And one of the first people to talk about this was a man named J.C.R. Licklider. He wrote a paper in 1960 called Man-Computer Symbiosis. And what this paper talked about, really a revolutionary paper, because what he wanted to say was there's a different idea of what computers can do, a different interaction model that he wanted to pose. See, before him, everybody kind of thought of computers as being a replacement for human labor. In fact, the word computer used to be a job title for humans. You could get a job as a computer. And what you would do is you would sit there and you would do computations, essentially math problems. That was a career. And these machines that were invented were called computers because they replaced the human computers that existed before them. Now, what Licklider thought was that this was not actually the best use of computers. And really the better way to think about computers is that they could interact with humans, essentially work together with humans to allow humans to do their same job, but to do it 10 times better or faster or more efficiently. He thought of computers as giving humans superpowers to help them do their tasks easier. And so in the spirit of Licklider, I actually tried to use ChatGPT as I was preparing this talk. I asked ChatGPT to create a summary of man-computer symbiosis, just a short one for me. And I'll show it to you now because I thought it was pretty cool. ChatGPT says, man-computer symbiosis is humans and computers intertwined in a powerful dance of thought, expanding their combined intelligence beyond reach. So I thought it's pretty good, pretty impressive, kind of poetic even. Not exactly what I had in mind when I was looking for a summary, but still pretty impressive. And just for fun, I also asked the system to generate an image, an illustration to go along with man-computer symbiosis. And this is what it gave me for that. So kind of spooky, but still pretty impressive. There's a lot going on with these machines. But what is generative AI? It's powering this revolution in AI assistance. But what is actually going on with that? How does it work? And so I'm going to attempt to answer this question, and I'm going to attempt to do it in the best way I know how, which is using memes. So I'm actually going to try and answer 3 questions about generative AI with memes. The first one being, why now? Why is this happening now? Why are we seeing these revolutions just in the last few years? And the answer to that has a lot to do with transformers. So I should say generative AI is a learning algorithm. It's a type of AI called machine learning. And the way it works is that it takes a whole bunch of data, usually from the internet, puts it up and starts crunching through that data. And it actually starts to learn from the data how to do specific tasks. Now, before transformers, the way this worked was that you had to load all of this data into the memory of a single machine. And so you were kind of capped at how much a system could learn, how much data it could learn from based on how much memory you had for a specific machine. Now, what transformers did, one of the main things, the main innovations it provided, is that it allowed us to start training these systems in parallel across multiple machines at the same time. So you could break up that data, put it on lots of different machines, and then do your training in parallel. And what this did was it moved the kind of limitations of these systems away from the physical memory that a single machine had. Now the only limitation you have is just how much money you're willing to spend to rent machines to do this training across lots of different servers at the same time. And this is kind of why you see a lot of these these language models coming out of these giant companies like Google and Meta and even OpenAI, because they have a lot of money to spend to rent these machines to crunch these numbers. But what is the system actually learning? What is actually going on as it's crunching these numbers across tens of thousands of machines or even more? And the answer to this is, I think, actually the most interesting, because it's actually learning something very simple. All these systems are learning is how to predict the next word in a sentence. And so what the system does is, as it takes up all of this data, trillions of sentences that it gets from the internet and various other places. And it works similarly with images and video for pixels, but I'll use sentences and words as the example here. What the system is given is all of these sentences, and then it's shown the first part of the sentence, and then the last part is hidden. And then what the system tries to do is predict what that hidden word is. And as it goes through these trillions of sentences, every time it tries, it gets a little bit better, until by the end, it's actually incredibly good at doing this very simple task of predicting the next word in a sentence. And what's really remarkable about this is that these systems learn to not only, they learn to encode tons of knowledge, right? But not just factual knowledge, not knowledge like, who was the first president of the United States or who killed Abraham Lincoln or stuff like that. It learns that too. But what it is also learning is all of this common sense knowledge about the world around us. So, for example, if I were to take this bottle of water and I were to drop it on the floor, it would be able to predict that water might spill all over the floor, and that somebody walking by might slip on that water and hurt themselves, and somebody might have to come clean up that water. All these other kind of correlated, related facts that come about that you and I just learn by living in the world. The system is actually able to actually learn all of this information. And this is actually really critical. This is stuff that people have been trying to push into machines since the very beginning of AI. And no one has ever really been able to encode that information effectively until now with these very simple models. And so these simple models are called foundation models because they are actually the foundation of how these larger systems like ChatGPT work. But they're not enough just to make ChatGPT work. In fact, it brings us to the next question of how do these AI assistants actually take advantage of these foundation models? And the answer to this has to do with something called fine-tuning. Fine-tuning is the next step in the process because the foundation model alone is not going to do things like answer questions for you. It doesn't do that. All it does is predict the next word in a sentence. So in fine-tuning, there's another stage where now humans get involved and they're actually training the system very carefully and intentionally. They're listening to what the system says, asking it questions, looking at its responses, and then telling the system whether it did a good job or a bad job. And it does this thousands, tens of thousands of times. It takes a lot of effort and labor to do this, but essentially it's teaching the system how to do specific tasks. So going from a foundation model, a basic baseline system trained on trillions of data points, to one that can actually do much more specific tasks like question answering or summarizing text or things like that. And these systems learn to do that exceptionally well. And so just to give you a sense of how well these things do, I want to show an example, just a video we put together here to kind of highlight how well these off-the-shelf generative AI systems work. And so the video I'm going to show you is a time-lapse video from one of our customers' construction sites, actually the World War II Museum in New Orleans. And what we did is we asked ChatGPT to go through and watch this time-lapse video of a construction site and create a narration of that video. And in particular, to create a narration of the video as though it was a nature documentary, and specifically as though it was being narrated by a very famous nature documentarian named David Attenborough. And then even more than that, we gave it to a system to take that narration and actually generate it in the actual voice of the real David Attenborough. So it really sounds like him. So I want to just show this to you because I think it is pretty cool.
In the midst of a city's constant hum, a remarkable transformation unfolds. Within these steel skeletons, a testament to human ingenuity and determination takes shape. Just as a colony of bees crafts its hive, workers, artisans of construction, collaborate in a meticulous dance of creation.
A meticulous dance of creation. I particularly like that last line. Again, very poetic. These systems are poetic for some reason, but just in general, incredibly impressive. And I will tell you, 5 years ago, I would have been shocked if I had known that something like this would have been possible with AI systems at all. But for as impressive as it is, there is something that is kind of missing, or something that we've noticed, that many people have noticed here. And that is that while it's very impressive what these systems do, it's not exactly useful. And so this is something that has actually shown up, and a number of people have noticed this in many different industries. And DPR wrote a report about this earlier this year, where they really, I think they put it nicely, in that they tested out these off-the-shelf ChatGPT systems in construction-related tasks. And what they found is that those systems are not necessarily wrong, although they can be. Hallucinations are definitely a problem, and that is something that you have to work around. But even when they're not hallucinating and they're not wrong, they're still not exactly insightful, not necessarily helpful or useful. They're not expert at what they do. And this actually makes a lot of sense when you think about how they're built, because if you had a brand new intern come in and nothing about construction, and you told them to just, read the internet and see, and then come back and do their job, you wouldn't expect them to really be able to do that. And that's how these systems are built. They're not actually expert at construction. And this is really part of the core of the spatial AI engine that we're building here. Because what we're doing is we're taking all of the best and most powerful aspects of spatial computing on the one hand, and then similarly pulling out the best and most powerful aspects of generative AI. We're doing this across many different data types, our 360 images, smartphone videos, mobile photos, even documents and tasks. And then we're actually tuning the system specifically for construction and for construction-related tasks. And that's the power of the spatial AI engine. And so what I'd like to do now is actually take you under the hood of some of the products and features that Neil had talked about earlier today, and just talk a little bit about how spatial AI works to actually make those features a reality. So the first one I'm going to talk about is our automatic location pinning. And so this is a short GIF that you saw before that Neil showed you earlier today. And just to refresh your memory, what you're seeing here is our ability that we're introducing to allow you to actually take your smartphone photos and upload them directly from your phone into the OpenSpace system, where the OpenSpace system will then automatically pin the location of those photos onto points onto the floor plan. Now, if you're familiar with our product, you know that this is actually a function, a feature that we've had for a long time while you're taking a capture. So just to show you a little visualization of this, as you're going around taking a 360 video, we're collecting a whole bunch of information as you're doing that. And so if you whip out your phone and take a field note, take a photo, we can use all of that contextual information to know where that photo was and where you were when you took the photo, so that we can pin it to the floor plan in the appropriate place. However, when we're trying to do that on mobile photos that you took when you're not taking a capture, we have much less information. This becomes a much harder problem. And so what we have to do there is actually dive into the images themselves and start looking at semantic information about the content or what's in the images. The way this works with the spatial AI engine is that we actually look at the image, we identify salient features in there, and then find matches between the features that exist in the smartphone image and your most recent 360 capture. If the system finds enough of these features in common, it'll actually project that image to that location in the 360 and then onto the floor plan. And so how this works in practice is the 360 captures become something that we call an image map. And as mobile photos come into the system, we can scan those across the image map and looking for those places where the objects in the image match the objects that we see in the image match. And if there's enough confidence in that, we can actually pin that to the floor plan and suggest that location to our users. This is an example of how we can use spatial computing and that spatial intelligence, tune it specifically for construction tasks in order to power a pretty magical feature. So that is the one feature. The next one and the last feature I want to take you under the hood with is our search feature and something that we call Smart Search. So again, I'll flash this image here, this video from Neil's talk where he showed off this ability to actually start searching for objects that appear in images in 360s. And so it's a pretty classic search interface. The idea is you go in and you type in the keyword for the object you're looking for, and then we'll bring the images that have that object up to the top. But what I'd like to show you now is take you kind of under the hood as I said, and show you a visualization of what's actually happening behind the scenes as the system is doing this. And so here is a video that I'll show you of what's happening behind the scenes here. And what you can see here is a point cloud representation of every image that was taken on a job site over the course of time. And so importantly, this point cloud is not like the point cloud you get out of a laser scan. So the placement of each of these points has nothing to do with physical space or where that image was taken. We can also do that. We also have that information. But rather here, the relationship between the points and the images has to do with how similar those images are together. So 2 points in this visualization are close together if the objects in the image are very related. So for example, if I look at the top here and I just mouse over a couple of the different points there, you can see that these are all images taken in similar stages of construction. But if I go all the way down here, you can see a very different phase where a bunch of images have been kind of clustered together that are all taken in, after finishes have gone in much later phase of construction. And so we sometimes refer to this visualization as the brain behind the search engine. And we call it the brain for a couple of reasons. One is that, it looks a little brain-like. If you kind of squint, it's got kind of a brainy aspect to it. It looks a little bit like kind of an MRI. But the other reason that we call it a brain is because this is actually a lot like how many researchers think the real brain, the human brain, organizes information. The idea being that in the brain, if you have two concepts that are related to each other semantically or in their meaning or how they're used, then they'll actually show up in similar physical locations in the brain. So you might have one part of the brain where things like apples and bananas, the concepts for those are located, and that might be in a very different place than concepts for things like tables and chairs. And so we can use this in order to show off how the search engine works as well. So if I just go back to this visualization, we type in the keyword drywall, and what happens is that part of the brain where drywall actually exists, that gets activated. And if you go and mouse over that little section, you can see that in that region of the brain, these are all places where you can see drywall. Now, keyword search is kind of the first step here, but because the system has been tuned for construction and because we're building in the semantic information that we're pulling from algorithms that we get from generative AI, we can actually take this to the next level and start handling much more complicated and much more valuable types of queries for the system. So for example, we can type in not just the keyword drywall, but the concept drywall sheets that are stacked on the floor, which is much more powerful, much more relevant, especially when you're trying to understand what rooms and zones are staged and ready for the next phase of construction. And you can see that this actually activates a very different part of the brain, the drywall sheet stacked on the floor part of the brain, where those elements exist. Now, we can take that and then layer on the spatial intelligence that we talked about before, so you can actually see where those actual photos are located. And this allows us to do the next level of power. We can actually now even add spatial information to those queries, so we can get very specific information about where sheets of drywall are in particular zones. You can see how this just makes the system more and more powerful because as we add that spatial intelligence that we're getting from spatial computing and combine that with the semantic intelligence that we're learning from generative AI technologies, we can then take all that, put it together, and then tune it specifically for these construction-related tasks. And then this becomes a very powerful system, this spatial AI system that we're developing that can power not just these features that we're talking about today, but a whole suite of features that we'll be talking about over the coming months and years. And so I want to end there with that and just say thank you very much for taking the time to listen to what I had to say. I had a good time. And I'm looking forward to my next opportunity to share more about spatial AI and the features that it will power in the future. Thanks very much.
All right, third time's the charm. We got audio? Awesome. Okay, well, I'm glad we saved that for the end so that everything else worked pretty fabulously. I want to wrap up Waypoint, and first of all, thanks, Mike, for that awesome look inside Spatial AI. And I've got more thanks to give. First of all, to the team that helped organize this event, and then to our entire team that builds the products, builds the technology, and gets them out to you, our customers. We're really grateful. And I want to thank our customers, both present and future, for trusting us with your business and letting you help you get that extra edge to make your businesses more efficient and more profitable. And special thanks to Nibby in particular, Nibby Brothers, that shared a lot of their data with us that we shared with you today in some of those demos. So just to wrap it up, we've been really busy this year. We've grown a lot. Hopefully you saw through Waypoint number 1, we're operating at enterprise scale. We can handle your projects no matter what. We're reliable and we're fast. We are building some pretty advanced technology. It's actually useful and keeps you on the cutting edge with stuff that works. We are doing things to make more and more of your workflows go through OpenSpace so you can get the job done quicker. And last but not least, we are building some pretty amazing partnerships that allow you to literally save money. We can't wait to get all this stuff out to you. As you heard from Neil, a lot of this stuff is live and in beta now. It's happening. So if you're interested, do get in touch with us, contact your rep, come to our website. We would love, love, love to talk to you about all the stuff that we're putting out there with both our technology and our partners. And a few more details that we want to share with you. Wes, want to come up here? Yeah. So first, thanks, Wesley, for being such an excellent host. And why don't you take us out?
Of course. Thank you all so much for joining Waypoint this year. I had a wonderful time with you all, showing you what OpenSpace has been up to. We have recorded all the sessions today, and we're going to be sharing with them with y'all early next week. And we've also cataloged all the Q&A questions, and if we didn't get to anything, we will be answering them and reaching out to you all. Again, thank you so much for being a part of Waypoint this year. I had a great time being your host, and we will see you out in the field.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.